9 o'clock. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order is to approve the minutes of Tuesday, January 18th.
I'll make the motion.
Tim moves.
I'll second.
Going second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pass 4-0. Miscellaneous motions. Moved to authorize and direct the chairman to sign 3 tax abatements in the total amount of $451.24. 2 of those are in my district. I'll move.
I'll second.
Jessica moves. Tim second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. That didn't take long. Guess we'll call her 905 Empower House Ministries, Melissa Landis and Gail Taylor Ford.
Good morning.
Morning, ladies.
Thank you.
I killed lots of trees this morning. My name's Melissa Landis, and I'm with Empower House Ministries.
Thank you.
And we are in the process of starting a recovery residence for female drug addicts. Super long story short, my daughter was a drug addict in Emporia. Through her, they're in the midst of heavy, serious meth addiction. And through her, I started being exposed to addicts up close and personal, started adopting them, so to speak, as daughters. She later went to jail in Lyon County and was charged with 7 felonies over 3 separate cases. And within 5 weeks, I signed up for classes to become a pastor for addicts and inmates. So shortly thereafter, I was in Coffee County Detention Center for basically a year, every Thursday morning, visiting with the young ladies that were there, and then ended up in Lyon County as well. And what we find is they've got some serious addiction issues, but I started to really see them as real people with real problems and real issues. And so in that process, the thing that's most identifiable as what they need is they need a ton of addiction therapy services, and I'll let Gail introduce therapy services as well, but they've got access to the therapy that they need, the cognitive behavioral therapy, so that they know what they need to be doing in regards to treatment. But in the midst of all of that, they are living in absolute dire poverty. Their average income is about $11,000 a year. They're often single moms. 60% of them have young kids, and they're trying to figure out how to do life differently while they're literally couch surfing. Or I've seen them living without water. I've seen them living without electricity in what can only be described as abusive situations. And so back in 2020, Gail, one of the addicts, suggested, as I was trying to figure out how to house these young ladies, one of them said, "You got to talk to Gail Taylor Ford." So I did, and we started Empower House Ministries back in September of 2020, became a nonprofit organization in December of 2020 as well. Our focus is twofold. Number one is safe, stable housing for them while they're in the midst of trying to figure out what recovery looks like for them. And then the second piece is teaching them life skills. When we look at their history, we see a lot of them have no idea how to do job search and certainly don't know how to do it well. So we are teaching them everything from job search to budgeting. When your money comes in, what are you going to do with it? Relationships, budget-friendly cooking. I mean, if you go down to the food bank and you pick up a bag of rice and you have no idea how to cook that bag of rice, you're kind of back to square one. So that's what we're doing. As of January 3rd, we acquired a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house in Emporia. We'll have housing starting next week for 6 to 8 ladies. Our goal is a much larger facility. We've got one in mind that would house 14 to 20. It is located in Emporia, but it does serve Lyon and surrounding counties. So I'll let Gail jump in and kind of introduce herself and therapy services as well, and then I'll give you some more data as well.
Hello. Some of you know me, Gail Taylor Ford, and I'm owner of Therapy Services, and I've been here in Burlington since 2005. And then I opened another office in Emporia in 2018, and we are just, trying to get this housing going, and we open next week, and we will serve clients from Coffee County, because, I have an office here, and it's going to make it, referrals pretty smooth. And of course, we'll serve the other surrounding counties as well, but there is a need. In the past year or two, there were probably 8 to 12 women that would have qualified just from Coffee County for that housing. And we're working to, get the housing going, and we're looking for funds to help us get started. Because when they first come, they won't have jobs. They won't have any way of paying the rent. However, that is part of the goals that we set for them, is for them to start paying rent as they are able. As, maybe the first month they're in intensive outpatient and they have to be in treatment 5 days a week. There isn't a whole lot of time for a job, treatment, maybe probation, and everything else they've got to do. So we want to supplement their rent for possibly the first month.
I got more paperwork. I can kill more trees.
And so, anyway, we want to help these women get on their feet so they can get going. And you told me what you wanted me to talk about.
You're fabulous.
I know.
You got it.
And
I'll jump back in and
jump back in with that part.
Okay.
Oh, I know what you wanted me to talk about. You wanted me to talk about the Drug and Alcohol Fund.
Yep, I've got statutes.
We understand the proper procedure. Okay, I want you to fully understand that. I do understand that no one has accessed these funds since 2012 when I accessed them for therapy services. Okay, I haven't needed funds since. And today I'm not here to access them for therapy services. I'm here for Empower House, that is a nonprofit. Now, we did try to go through Lindsay Payer. Okay, talked to her in August. Okay, we'll get you on the agenda. Talked to her in late August. We had to cancel that meeting. I had a doctor's appointment. I'll put you on the agenda for September. Oh, we didn't have a quorum. I'll put you on the agenda for October. Oh, we didn't have a quorum. I've emailed her multiple times. I ran into her in person when I was up here, I think in December. And yeah, we'll get right on this. I can't get her to respond to an email. Okay, and I've emailed her multiple times. I've talked to her in person. I've talked to her on the phone. And so we just wanted to get on her agenda so that we could have this presentation with the task force first, so then they could make the recommendations to you. Because I do understand the procedure, but we couldn't get anywhere, so we came here.
And I'll give you some more data. This is the state statute. And essentially what we have, and this is what brings us here. Liquor by the drink taxes. Most of that money goes off, all of that money when it's collected, so you order a rum and coke. The retailer, the bar, is going to collect alcohol tax, which is then heading off to the state. If you look at the bottom of the page 1 on the statutes, 23 1/3 of those funds come back to this county. If you flip over to the next page, top 2 lines tell you where that money goes. 1/3 of it goes to your general fund, 1/3 of it goes to Special Parks and Rec, and 1/3 of it goes into what's called the Special Alcohol Fund. The Special Alcohol Fund by state statutes is reserved for smoking, drinking, or drug, education, cessation, or treatment. In most counties, in most counties, there's 2 different ways it can be done. It can be a decision that's made by the county commission, or you can have a committee, which is what Lindsay's the head of, that then makes those decisions, and the county commission basically endorses it. As you can see, I've got more paperwork, sorry. As you can see, money's coming in on that fund continually every year. It's been sitting since 2012, and this is really what it's reserved for, is drug, alcohol, and smoking. So what brings us here today is to talk to you specifically about the possibility of using those special alcohol funds to support Empower House. As we move forward, right now we're really establishing operations next week, but we've got a much larger building that would house between 14 and 20 female drug addicts from all of those counties. So life's about to change for all of us. We're open next week. I'm actually living there for the first 30 to 90 days to get everything up and off the ground, but we can't help but do something because these ladies need somewhere to live while they're using the services of therapy services and while they're trying to get up on their feet. So I know I gave you a ton of data. Do y'all have questions?
I have one.
Okay.
So you say there's several in Coffee County, which I get that, but how do they get from here to there? You
Well,
have-
if they're homeless here, or they need housing, then, you know, I also own a transportation company, we can transport them over there
Okay.
so they can move in.
That's the van.
I mean, we have vans,
Okay.
yeah, I've got 8 of them.
So getting there, not an issue.
No.
No.
And I
we
actually
can
live in
get 'em.
Levo. I'll come get them.
Okay.
And bring them over. And obviously, they need a ton of resources. I've got a resource right now. What happens is they end up going to jail. They lose everything, every speck of clothing. I've got a church that'll provide them with all the clothing that they need. I've got a ton of volunteers that have offered to come in and teach these various services. And we're also starting in February, we're starting life skill clinics as well, which is open to anybody, but it's announced through drug court, community corrections, probation, and Department of Corrections, to come in and teach those life skills.
I can give you a couple of examples of the situations that we have found. In a neighboring county, there was a woman who couldn't live in her home because she lived next door to her drug dealer, so she went and stayed at campgrounds to try and get clean. We've had people in domestic violence situations, which, of course, they can get help from SOS as well, in which we do refer to them. But then there's also sometimes they don't want to go there for various reasons. We've had situations where that their home is in such poor shape that it's been condemned by the city that they live in, and they really need to get out.
Or they're squatting.
Or they're squatters.
The other thing that you've got too is they may go off to jail, they may go off to prison, they may go off to 30-day rehab programs, or even a 60-day reintegration, and then they're coming right back to our communities, and they're trying to figure out again how to live. And there's where the gap is because they're back, they're trying, they've got this new skill set that they've acquired, they want to be sober, but they're living in the same environment. And so that's where we come in, is filling in the gap of what happens after jail, what happens after prison, what happens after rehab or reintegration, all of those various services that are available. So this gives them more of a long-term option where they can really come in, not just learn what they need to, and then, jump back out into this new environment, but they could stay with us for up to 12 to 18 months, because that's how long it sometimes takes to make this massive lifestyle change that they're trying to make.
Plus, you're trying to put them back into the workforce again.
Bingo.
And you're teaching them, you're gonna pay this bill, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that.
Yes.
And now who's accounting for their accounts? Are you guys monitoring their bank account to ensure that they put the money where it's supposed to go and so on and so forth?
Yeah.
Because that's more life skills.
Right, and that's something that I'll be meeting with them on a weekly basis. We call it a GAP meeting, which is Goals and Progress. And that's really to talk through, okay, last week, when we looked at your budget, this is where your money's supposed to be going. Did it work? And right now, I'm doing that as a pastor for a ton of young ladies. You got your job, paychecks this week. What's your plan? Did it work? And then I've also, I don't know if you even know this yet, had a young lady step forward this week that said, I can do budgeting. I can teach them. And so that also gives that extra set of eyes in there to meet with them every week and say, where are we at? What's the progress? And I'll be meeting with them on the job search skills every week. If they're not working, they're required to do 10 hours of community service, which could be anything from, working at Goodwill, right? Volunteering to check in clothes. At least 5 hours a week of job search, at least 5 applications, and 2 follow-ups from prior applications. So, and the big thing that I really want to see happen is I want them to start to dream again. And so I talked to a young lady yesterday. She is a CNA. She's 20 years old and has an addiction problem. She's a CNA. She's got, I'm going to screw this word up, phlebotomy, blood experience of taking blood. She's got that experience, but she needs that place to go. And the one thing I want to encourage them is to stop and think about their future in a different way, and let's start to dream again, right? You want to be a nurse? Let's look at those steps on what you got to do to get there. And so it's all part of that life skills. I'm going to be busy teaching lots of skills, but I've got I've been overwhelmed by all the people that have come in to support, that are all willing to take a role in investing in these young ladies. And I shouldn't say young, some of them are my age, but investing.
Still young, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Is that in the minutes? I'm just asking.
You know, Melissa, we've all got committees we serve on. One of them I serve on is the Fourth Judicial System, or that ain't the right word, out of Ottawa, which represents Osage and Coffee and Anderson and 1 or 2 more.
Franklin.
Is this need to be a collaboration between the 2 organizations? Because they're working in somewhat the similar area, although I understand a lot of difference right now. But have you visited with, I can't think of our.
We have been to Lyon County,
Dennis's.
Morris County, Walbunsee County, Osage County.
See, we're the next county east of that, except Osage is part of this one here. To me, maybe it ought to be a joint effort, because they're working in a little bit of different direction, but maybe the 2 working together might even be a plus put together.
And I'm more than happy to share, in case you guys can't tell, I'm an open book. So if you want to hook me up with names and numbers, I'd be happy to reach out. What we'll find.
I'll have Andrew get you some names and numbers.
Yeah, and every county is a little bit different, and I'm working with a multiple, like 5th Judicial, 4th, Morris is in another district.
We've been to Chase County.
Yeah, we've been before 6 county commissions, plus the city of Emporia. The city of Emporia is a little different in that because their population's over 6,000, according to the state regs, they get a large piece of the special alcohol funds. But none of the other counties have a city that meets that threshold, so.
These residencies that you have set up for 6 to 8, maybe down the road 18 to 20, what type of supervision is in that structure? To me, that supervision has got to be top.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you some of the security measures we've got coming in place. Number 1, I'm there for 30 to 90 days, and what's going to happen is, and I've studied other models, the leadership, somebody will rise to the top and assume that role of house leader, which then kind of alleviates me of a lot of those duties. So now we have a house leader in place that can obviously call the police if there's a problem, and I've got solid relationships with law enforcement. And then the other part of that is the security piece, and that's all being handled and installed this week. We've got inside security cameras, visitor policy, visitor check-in, all that kind of stuff. The front door, it hasn't been installed yet either, but it is a passcode, PIN code activated from my mobile app. I can enable, disable. I can also pull a report and say, aha, Sally's coming in at 2 a.m. in the morning. We have a problem. Now, Sally's working. That may be a different matter depending on her work schedule. But I can pull all of those reports from my mobile app and know who's coming and going. I've got security cameras, so I know what's going on inside the house. But ultimately, these are adults. They need to step up to the plate and start to act as adults. Some of them will assume those leadership roles.
And many of them are on probation.
Yes.
And they are supervised, either with community corrections or their city probation.
And in Lyon County, they have a program called Drug Court, And that is super intensive as far as what their probation looks like. I suspect law enforcement will be there 2 or 3 nights a week to check curfews. So we've got the backing of law enforcement on a lot of those things. Most of the ladies, if they're on probation, parole, or drug court, they're going to be required to take drug tests, random drug tests, so now we know what's going on in that aspect. Solid relationships with all of those parties and releases so that we can talk directly to their probation officer and say, hey, this is what's going on, what do you see?
So you're seeking some funding, I'm sure. Do you have a particular goal for each county, each location, or how are you gonna move ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at in my pamphlet, there is a page for startup budget. And this is not for the location we're in, this is for the other location that we're looking at. Our total budget for that first year is $419,000. $419 or $416, yeah. $419. We've already acquired $25,000 in funding now for our current operations. I've also got $100,000 that we've already received that is specifically for building renovations and repairs. And I'm working with a donor that there may be some good things coming in regards to the purchase. So, but then you also start to take into account all of the furnishings and the monthly operations. One of the things that's different is with the ladies paying rent, and I've talked to other similar facilities, their average collection rate is about 70% of the rent, 30% is waived and or not paid. With that operational model, it puts us pretty close, once we're up and running, to a break-even point. So with the counties, there are we're working with 7 counties plus the city of Emporia. They all have different funds available. And then part of our strategy as well is working with just constituents across the board, private donors, and I've been filling out a ton of foundational applications. So there's also some other, in fact...
Foundation and grants would be a good place.
It has not been formally announced yet, but I'll tell you guys anyway. We also received the wording is tricky, a discretionary community services block grant that's good for funds for February to August 30th, and it'll help cover some of the utility costs, some of those startup costs, and the amount on that is $22,500. But what we're doing now is coming before all of the county commissions and saying, y'all have a problem, right? We know that there's addiction inside your communities. You've got the funds. This is what the funds were designed to do.
And no one's accessed them in the last 10 years.
In Coffee County, correct.
In Coffee County.
You mentioned...
So it's amazing to me,
And I got that information from Lindsay, I'm sorry.
that's all right, it's amazing to me, there's only $18,000 in there.
It looks like there's only $1,800 a year going into it,
Correct.
and I've never seen it being used either, so.
Yeah, I haven't either.
So what the background is, where that money comes from, how it can be adjusted, I don't know.
Got it.
We're
Yep.
getting into some questions we're gonna have to have.
Check your state statutes, because that's what's going to determine, and like I said, you guys are a little bit different than the other counties in that it's not the county commission that makes the decision, there's a committee that makes the decision, and then the county commission blesses that decision.
And it wasn't always like that, because when I first came here in 2005 and got my first grant to start up my business, it was from the county commission, and I came directly to you. You didn't have that committee yet. And then it was later, a few years after that, that committee was formed. But I last spoke to the committee and was approved and got a small amount back in 2012. And from speaking with Lindsay, she said that no one's accessed any of the monies or funds since then. No one's even asked for it.
You mentioned qualifications a while ago. What allows a lady to be qualified or disqualified? And that may be a long question, I don't expect a long answer.
I'll give you the short answer. A sincere desire to move forward in their recovery. They are not required to be on drug court or on probation, but a sincere desire. Our preference, super strong preference, is that they're from Lyon and or any of the surrounding counties. We don't have the capacity for children, but there are some other organizations that can help if they do have children, and they're working on that. And then there's some things from the insurance perspective. There's 3 kinds of registries for registered offenders. There is sexual offenders, they can't come. There is registered violent offenders, they can't come. And then there's registered drug offenders, and drug offenders can come. So, and the way that process works is there's actually an application on our website that's got 6 or 7 questions. It's designed to really see if they're serious, followed by a 30-minute conversation with me trying to gauge, are you really serious, is now the time, and telling them about us. And then there's a resident review board, comes back in behind, which is 3 separate individuals that again are gauging, are they really serious and are they ready? And then obviously background checks and releases so that we can talk to any of their probation officers or references. Did I answer your question? And yes, I'm long-winded.
So on
I
this,
expected it to
Tom,
be long-winded. I knew there had to be some qualifications that disallowed it to be a part of it.
Yeah, more than anything,
Or I assumed.
third.
they just need to be serious about pursuing their recovery. I met with a young lady last night.
30% of that account. So there's 3 different departments that money's going into. It's going in the general fund for the county,
Mhm.
special parks recreation fund, and a third goes to the alcohol. So the alcohol program's only getting a third of the percentage that's coming.
Of the
So it's a very
23 and a half,
small
yep.
amount.
But it's still, it seems minimal. Well, I mean, if you average 1,500 a year, that's only 4,500 a year,
Right.
so.
Is this something we need to run by Wade, not to get his, tell us to do it or not to do it,
Mhm.
but see the strengths and
Okay.
the positives of this program, as much as Wade likes to get involved.
And I have talked to Wade in the past, by the way, but not about the alcohol funds themselves.
You ladies need to be commended for what you're doing on this.
Yes. Heck of a crusade.
A lot of people don't realize.
Surprise, Jesse.
A lot of people don't realize how bad it is out there for some
And I didn't. I was, until I went through this, addiction, yes, it's out there, okay? That was my attitude, but it happens in other people's families. But then when it happens in your own family, you start to see, there's some of them that are from good families, and there's some that's not. It's random on who it hits. And the one thing that really stuck out to me is and I'm not judging parents. I mean, I went through what can only be described as hell. The number of parents that said, I've been in this a long time, I'm done. And so oftentimes they burn the family bridges and need that outsider to step in. So I would say, don't commend me. I'm doing what I have to do and what I was told, quite frankly, by God to do. So it's been an incredible journey, but I will say the people that have come alongside us and the board and the response has been nothing short of phenomenal. And in the last week, the way everything's come together as far as, we've got a full household to furnish. All the dishes and everything else, and everything's come together. It's coming.
Your startup budget's a certain figure, 400-some thousand. Continued budget, second or third year, is that gonna drop off some once you get things in place?
Absolutely.
And still be able to serve?
Yeah, that first year also has, you've got all the furnishings. You start to think, the building that we've got in mind has 12,000 square feet. So it's not a single living room couch and a love seat. It's, 4 or 5 sets of that. So you've got, I believe, 50,000 in those initial furnishings. You've got 65,000 in operations, which is insurance, electricity, all that good stuff.
You'll always have that.
Yeah, that's always coming. And then you've got the actual facility itself. But after that first year, the goal is still break even, give or take, because we're taking in rent and then obviously we're paying out utilities. So the goal with operations long-term is break even plus or minus. I've got some budgets I've looked at that show us having a $1,000 surplus. I've got other budgets I've looked at that show us having a $500 loss. But give or take, After that first year, we're break even.
501c3 kind of forces you to be in that level, so.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother story. Our 501c3 was approved in 62 days by the IRS, which is unheard of.
Wow.
You got it in 62 days?
62 days from...
Lord, it's a year.
Yeah, well, we had a couple of things going for us. Number one, at that point, we were able to fill out the short form, as opposed to the long form. I've actually helped 4 or 5 other organizations through this process. But yeah, normally it's a year. With the short form, it was approved in 62 days. It's just beyond belief.
That's unbelievable.
Any other questions for me?
Not until you leave.
Okay.
You have our numbers.
You
can
have
call
my
us.
contact data. You can call me and ask questions.
I didn't mean I wouldn't ask them now, but
Okay.
you know how that goes.
Okay, well, feel free to reach out. You've got my number. I'm going to be busy the next couple months, particularly. So it's going to be good, though.
I think you're doing
Very
a
worthwhile
fantastic-
project.
doing a
Thank you.
fantastic thing.
Wow.
Getting it started is gonna be the biggest issue.
Yeah, I met with a young lady last night. She's 20 years old, got meth addiction, and doesn't know where she's sitting. It's like, how do you get sober when you don't know where you live?
We'll probably bring this back up on roundtable
Yeah.
Yeah,
later,
I mean, if we
at a
can
later
get,
time. If we
I mean,
can
as long as we do it correctly, I mean,
Right.
I already got a number in mind, so.
Yeah, yeah,
And
might as well.
When do you want me to follow up in with you? And I have your cell number, mister.
We can have Andrew get hold of her.
We can have- yeah,
after
we can have
After we
Andrew.
decide to establish
Yeah.
what that amount is.
Okay.
At least make sure we're going the legal routes to do it, which I'm sure we are. Just
Good. One other note.
Cover all our bases.
Next week, we're having an open house 4 to 7. If anybody wants to come, just take a walk through. You've got my number, message me, call me, and come on over, take a peek.
What day?
It is Monday from probably 4 to 7 p.m. And we've invited several. We're not public, meaning we want people that we know. But you're more than welcome to come take a peek at what we're doing.
And the address is?
2201 West 9th. And if you're in Emporia and you are at 9th, you are at 9th and Prairie Street, it's essentially a half block to the west. We're the first house on the left. So,
It'd be easy to find.
in a nice little neighborhood.
Is there a sign out front?
No, sir.
No sign yet?
We're blending.
Blending. Not all bad.
As best we can, considering you've got police showing up 2-3 nights a week to check curfew, but we're blending. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you all for your
Thank you very
time.
much for the work you do.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. My pieces of paper left me. Mr. Bobby Skipper Broadband. Discussion.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Commission.
Good morning.
Good morning, Clerk. Andrea. That was pretty interesting. Good to hear stuff like that you didn't know was out there.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't good to hear, but we know it's out there.
Right. No, the service they're providing is good to hear that.
Yeah,
You
it
bet.
doesn't have to be negative, but
Right.
it's huge problems out there.
Yes, sir.
Not a tent underneath the bridge.
That's right. That's right. My topic, here in front of me, I've made mention over the past few meetings, on separate occasions, that there was an RFP issued for a broadband project. Here are the sealed bids. Today you were scheduled to open these, or are scheduled to open these. Last week, last meeting, commission meeting, QuickCom representatives came and gave a presentation. I would ask that time be afforded to MT Networks to make a presentation this morning. And it can be interactive, just like the QuickCom presentation was, questions asked. But after that, at some point today, I would ask the Commission to go into executive session to discuss, let's see, secrets of a corporation. That would be relevant. Yes, secrets of a corporation. And then after the commission comes out, before you adjourn your meeting today, I'd ask that you open these, and take a look at these.
What's those bids supposed to be covering, Bob, or Robert? Bobby?
That's okay.
Okay. Third time I'll get it.
Yes, sir. So,
We're not aware there's any bid openings going on.
well, this is proposals. It works just like a bid opening, but, and they are bids for name's sake. There's a broadband project that was recommended by the Fiber Board back this time last year. And the discussion was in that project that the unserved portions of our 4 of our cities in Coffee County, where service was not adequate, would be provided for through a broadband project. Antennas on towers or other high points that would actually get that high-speed internet to those residents. If you ask the surveys were done, I get phone calls all the time, but y'all may get them too, but people just don't have good connectivity. They just don't. In some of our cities. Burlington's very well served. Good portion of New Strong's very well served. Some of the fringe areas of Waverly are great, but if you get out in the perimeter of most of our cities, their service is horrible. Some of the commissioners even say this, experience it firsthand. HughesNet is not a very pleasant option for internet service. So, that was the project that was submitted and requests for proposals were asked for. But I guess I'll turn it over to MT Networks.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm Robert, Bob, Bobby. I'll take
After the third time, I'll
Yeah,
get it.
yeah. I've got just a handout here if you want to take one and pass it around. After last week's commission meeting, it was obvious that most of the commissioners were not on the commission when we, MT Networks and Coffee County, entered into an agreement in a fiber lease back in 2015, and it was pretty obvious there was some confusion about that network and what that partnership looked like, and so we just put together some slides and some talking points just to revisit that, so that we're all on the same page as far as what that looks like, and if you have any questions. And I'd also like to invite the commission, I'll probably work with Commissioner Knight since he's on the fiber board, to come to our office, see our operations, see what the network looks like. If we need to do that in one visit, if it's easier where maybe 2 commissioners attend so there's not a quorum, maybe multiple visits of different commissioners. So I'd like to work with Commissioner Knight and try and get that scheduled and see what that looks like. But if it's all right with you guys, I'd like to just kind of go through these slides real quick. So a little bit of back history about MT Networks. I've been there going on 21 years, so I've been there a while. And MT Networks has been owned and operated, family owned and operated by the same family, based in Madison. So the MT, that's Madison Telephone Networks, based in Madison. I think this is our 76th year, so we just celebrated 75 years last year. So we've been doing it a while. We built our regulated territory, 100% fiber to the home. We started that project back in 2009. So that's like Lamont, Madison, we're in Lyon County, Greenwood County, and that's our whole 200 square miles is our regulated territory. And so if you live within that area and you apply for service, legally we have to serve you. We serve all those customers with fiber. After we did that project, we looked at options of expansion, and we looked into Burlington and Coffee County. We do not have a COLR or carrier of last resort obligation in Coffee County. That obligation belongs to CenturyLink, Lumen, and then Lumen just sold their ILEC properties to some other investment firm. But that is the company that receives recovery dollars for this area. And obviously they've chose not to build robust broadband networks So that puts us where we're at. So we looked at that and said, let's come over to Burlington, build an office. So in 2014, you'll see on the first slide, that's when our board of directors decided to start that venture. We had some property right on, what is that, 4th Street? Is that right?
75.
You're right around 75, right across from the hospital. So we constructed an office there, brought on some more employees, and then in 2015, we started offering service to Coffee County residents. That was our first service offering. Through that process, the Coffee County Fiber Board, and you're all aware, that's made up of the 3 school districts, the hospital director, the libraries director. There's an at-large position, 1 commissioner. They actually approached Empty Networks and said, hey, we understand you guys are a fiber provider. We understand you're coming to town. We've got some things we want to talk to you about. We've got this fiber network currently through CenturyLink, and it's coming to an end of term as far as what that contract looked like. We've got to figure something else out or renew what we've got. We need to look at options. So at that point, we entered into a planning over a matter of years. Empty Networks with the Coffee County Fiber Board, and so we entered into a shared study. We hired an outside consultant and engineering firm that was independent, and at that point, the Fiber Board and the county and Empty Networks shared in that cost, shared in the planning. We worked through the design of the project. The Fiber Board indicated, these are the places we have to connect, these are the places we would like to connect, these are some places that maybe would be great to connect, but depending on budgets. So they had a lot of input on how that network was built. So on the second slide there, we drop down to about the 3rd bullet point or 2nd bullet point. It says, the purpose of the contract was to replace the CenturyLink agreement, which was into life, for the services, and that was negotiated, and the network was never intended to be a fiber to the home for all of Coffee County. That was never negotiated. So in 2015, the county commission signed a 20-year IRU with Empty Networks to connect 36 of the Coffee County government anchor institutions. So we've got like Noxious Weed, Landfill, the Guard Shack at the lake, Sheriff's Department, Road and Bridge, all of the libraries, all the clinics, the hospital, the school district. So those make up those 36. In 2015, the county came to us and said, hey, we want to add the Sunset Manor, because in 2015, when we initially signed it, the manor was going to be decommissioned, and that changed, and they decided to keep the manor on. So we needed to add that to the network, and the county airport was added at the request of the commission. So that brought us up to 38. We completed that project by 2016, May of 2016, and essentially what happened is through that agreement, the county is leasing 4 fibers on that 20-year RU to all those locations. And in the contract, we negotiated the renewals at the end of the 20-year. There was some concern on, because of what had happened with the incumbent provider, and some things were done where a network was hired, the contract would expire, and then the rate couldn't be agreed on what that renewal looked like. So we went ahead and negotiated 5-year renewals after, so in year 21. For the protection, it was agreed both for Empty Networks and the county. So you see there at the end of the page, there's a total Coffee County amount was paid, $2,340,275 for the actual cost per year. So that included the investment of the county and the financing costs. Empty Networks finance part of that. So we currently provide, Empty Networks currently provides to that network 2 gig DIA, BGP, and BGP. So DIA is a direct internet connection, so it's not a shared connection similar to where broadband providers oversubscribe their bandwidth, because not everybody's using the same amount of, using the network all at the same time. But this internet is dedicated, and this goes out to E-rate, so we bid on it every year. It's a competitive process. You know, currently, we are one of those DIA providers. And it's key here to note that the BGP form, that has to do with that we're not the only provider, so there's redundancy in multiple networks to the county. There's another provider that is also providing DIA services to Coffee County, and this BGP process allows multiple routes of the internet to get out. So if a route were to fail, if there were, NTP attacks or DDoS attacks on the network, there's multiple routes, both logically and terrestrial, so the network can get others protection there, is what we're trying to get at, with multiple vendors and multiple networks. And it's also important to note that we'll get to another slide here that talks about our customers' counts, but this 2 gig DIA, that's providing service to the Coffee County network, and so that's, to us, that's essentially one customer, being the county then distributes that broadband to the courthouse. All those nodes, those 38 points, 3 school districts, all the libraries, those are all being served off that internet connection. So I don't have an internet service to the Levo library, to the Gridley library. Those aren't in my customer count because they're being served over the county network. So all those 38 become a customer for us, and then the county, through the BGP process, is allowing that diversity in the robust network that they need. We currently assist in the network administration of those lease networks. So once we put that fiber in, that was part of that agreement, and you're leasing those 4 fibers, being the county, you have to put electronics on it, you have to administer the network, you have to take the data from the hospital and separate it from the data from the sheriff's department, and separate it from the data from the school districts. So we assist in that. That's currently a 10 gig transport service, but it's dark leased fibers. So if the county decided to upgrade that, it's a simple upgrade of electronics. If you want to go to 100 gig, you want to go to 400 gig, swap out the gear, the fibers there, that could be done. We'd be happy to work in that process, as we've worked over the last, however many years, since 2015, through the administration of the current network. And MT Networks, we're a partner member of the Kansas Fiber Network, which is a statewide fiber network that handles middle mile, and that gives us a scalable, redundant terrestrial fiber optic paths to different network infrastructure hubs like Kansas City, Wichita, Denver, Oklahoma City, Omaha. That's how we get out over multiple terrestrial protected ring to the Kansas Fiber Network to get to all those hubs locations. I'm at the July 2018 slide there, and you see, as we built that fiber network, to Mr. Skipper's comments earlier about the need for better broadband, we looked at different areas in the county where folks were asking for better broadband, and also looking at budgets, and also understanding the topography. When we place a network, we know where the rock's at because we found it. And so there's also some various issues when it comes to grant and even loan dollars and programs, where if areas are considered served, and what you'll find is Levo, for example, you've got MT Networks, CenturyLink, Mediacom, QuickCom, and TelXP are all operating in Levo. The FCC is going to find that area is considered served within the city limits. You're going to find the same thing in Neutron. You're going to find the same thing in Gridley. Those rural environments are not. We do serve rural passing, so on our route from here to Leroy, if we go past your farm or your ranch and you want our service 110%, we will hook you up. That goes for all of our rural routes. We serve Gridley from Lamont, so if you live between Lamont and Gridley on our cable route, we have customers that have our service on that route. That's 100% of our cable in the county is that way. If we pass your home or business, you can take the service. But what we found is, obviously, we didn't pass everywhere. and we couldn't on the budget, you know, on the network that was built, and it wasn't built to pass everywhere. It wasn't engineered that way, wasn't negotiated that way. So what we did is we looked at what's the fastest, most economical way to bring more broadband to more people. And so that we started the wireless project off the New Strawn Water Tower in 2018 to try and accomplish that in New Strawn. We've got 75 customers on that. We invested $100,000 of our dollars in that project. And then in November of 2018, we looked at where could we best invest general budget dollars out of our general budget into more fiber expansion. We decided to do that in the northwest area of Burlington. So we constructed more fiber to the home that came off of the project that occurred in 2015. So without that initial investment of that project in 2015 and the lease agreement, the backbone infrastructure, if you will, to support this wouldn't have happened. So because of what the county did in the partnership with MT Networks, that allowed for example, the New Strawn Wireless project, and then this additional $500,000 fiber project in the northwest part of Burlington to take place. And that also included all of the Neosho Street Business District. So we look at reliability and trying to make sure that we can hit every pass. And wireless is a great solution where it fits. Fiber is always better. It's more expensive. And so we wanted to be sure that we could serve the business areas with the best service that we could, the offering that we had. So, you know, that project investment of $500,000 expanded further into the Burlington community, and that was a fiber to the home project. If that goes down the alley behind your business or your home, 110% you can connect and get the service. So in August of 2021, so just last year, we were still at this crossroads. We were trying to economically, cost-effectively, quickly deploy more broadband to folks that wanted the service. And so the FCC had released some licensed spectrum band that had been available at one point, and then it was made unavailable, and then it was now made available again. It's superior to most of the other spectrum that's out there. It costs more to put it up, but we decided to try that and see what it looked like. We deployed that in August 2021 here in Burlington, put another $100,000 investment of our general budget dollars into the community. We've currently got 40 customers off of that project. So from August to now, our guys have been pretty busy getting those 40 people installed. Again, that was the fastest and most cost-effective method for us to try and deploy in an area, mind you, that is considered served by the FCC. So ARPA dollars, you know, grant funds, state funds, it doesn't qualify. There's 25.3 is there. There's multiple providers. If you try and use those funds, you're going to be out of the scope of the definition of the use of those funds.
So these 3 years there, all the investment in that is MT's and not Coffee County?
That's right. Yeah, out of our general budget, out of our revenues, out of our financing. That's right. Coffee County did not pay for those. That's right. If you go to the slide, it's a graph, and it's showing customer counts. You can look there and see in 2015, you know, we started pretty small. We started building fiber. Most of that year was burying conduit, plowing fiber, you know, working with the folks at Road and Bridge and easement coordinators, working on state highway permitting and doing, you know, staking, and so we brought on 100 customers, and you just see the growth. So when we get to 2021, obviously last year it's the most current picture of our customer base. You can see 409 internet customers. I know at the last commission meeting, I think it was brought up that somebody thought we had one customer. So we have 409 internet customers in Coffee County, and it's important, in my mind at least, to remember that the 3 school districts, the 6 libraries, the county government itself, the hospital, the clinics, that's one customer. So those 38 points are one of the 409. We've also got the 119 wireless there, and so that would be the New Strawn and the new Burlington. And so 40 of those were the new Burlington wireless that came on. So that's, if you look at the census, that's over 35% of Coffee County households that are our customer, that we serve. And most of that is made possible from that initial 2015 investment from the commission to partner with MT Networks into the lease agreement, put that initial infrastructure out that got us to those communities, to those anchor institutions, and allow us to build off and connect other customers from there. Then just the final slide is just a summary. And so, 7 years in the community, the total investment in the infrastructure's $5.13 million that we've invested in Coffee County, over 85 miles of fiber connecting the 6 communities with rural subs on the route. So like I said, if you live out in a rural part of Coffee County and you're fortunate enough to be where we plan to draw fiber that was engineered between both Coffee County and MT Networks through an independent engineering firm. It's not that we decided this is where it was a collaborative design. If you live on that route, you can get fiber into rural or.
So if it runs up 75, then it goes 50 highway west to Lebo, and then 50 highway east to.
No, it doesn't run. So it runs from the New Strawn Water Tower. It goes, and you can go to our website and see our map. It shows coverage area. So that's where people, if they call and say, hey, can I get your service? We direct them to that. It's got all our routes on it so that you can see if you qualify for the service. But from New Strawn on the north end, we go over west a mile. It's cheaper to operate on a county road.
Right.
You've got all sorts of things going on with State Highway Department, US Highway 75. There's a lot there. And that was part of that collaborative design where the county and MT Networks, when we, over those 2 years, were like, hey, what's the most economical way to build this network? And I was like, well, if we can stay off county, or stay off state highway right-of-ways, it's going to save us dollars. And so that was agreed upon between Coffee County and MT Networks to operate that way. Then we go north, up until, I think, about a mile south of Old 50, and then we come back to hit the JSB building, because that was one of the 38 locations, the Joint Services building that the county has. And that's actually a network node. That's one of the things, I'd love to have a couple commissioners come and we could drive some of those routes. You may not even know that the county network has a POP at the JSB building, and there's protected rings serving Lebo and Waverly from there. And then we go on up to Beto. That was one of the things that the county wanted to do. Was at the time there was no county, there's not a county shop there. There's not a clinic, there's not a hospital, there's not a school. But for economic growth, the county said, hey, let's go ahead and put a node up there. And I will say because of that, when Lion Coffee Electric was looking at move, if you remember, I'll think of his name in a minute, Scott Whittington at the time was at Lion Coffee Electric, and he's like, hey, we're going to move, we're going to build a new facility, and Lyon County's pushing on us really hard to go over here between Opie, basically over by Panhandle, between Opie and Emporia, and build our new office there. We've got to have robust broadband. I said, well, where do you want to go? Well, we're looking possibly at Beto, but we don't know if we can get the internet we need. Yeah, I've got fiber there. The county in the partnership built fiber up to Beto. Great. Well, that's where the Four Rivers Electric, Lebo facility's at. That was one of their main issues. We've got to have fiber internet to make that work. But from the JSB, then over on Old 50 to Lebo and Waverly.
So it goes straight down 50 highway. So if you live along 50 highway, and we all know there's fiber there, can an individual connect to the fiber?
Yes.
Do you have an estimated cost?
So if you live on the side that the cable is on,
do you know which side of the road it's on?
It's primarily on the south.
South side, okay.
Right. So if you live on that side, there's no cost. Come in, sign up for the service. There's not a contract. Take service. If you disconnect within 6 months, then there's I don't know what it is. What is it?
The $100.
$100.
Yeah.
Right. If you're on the opposite side of the road, then our operating mode right now has been that you pay for the road bore. So pay to bore, so if 2 or 3 neighbors want to go together and share that, and I can hit them from one road bore, and we operate that now. I'm the guy sitting out there on the bore machine. But some of those road bores, if there's rock in there, I mean, I've sat on some of those 5-7 days, there'll be 2 or 3 guys trying to get that across, and if you try and put a business case to it and look and say, okay, this customer's going to take our internet at $79 a month, and we just paid 3 guys' wages and ran a machine for 5 days to get across that. You know, some road bores don't take that long. But that's the way that is now. You pay for the road bore, and then the drop to your house, there's no contract, you take the service.
So if an individual's on the other side of the road, on the north side of the road, and there's a neighbor a half mile up the road, you pay one road bore?
Yeah, so we would just have to look at each individual case. I mean, depending on, you know, can I get easement across between the 2 neighbors? How far is it? I mean, and we've done that. We've connected people that way. And we've had, you know, so of those 409 internet subs, there's plenty of folks that have said, yeah, you know, I need this. We'll pay for the road bore, or our neighbors, we're going to co-op it and go together, whatever that looks like. So this last page, like I said, it's just a quick summary of, you know, over 85 miles, serving over 550 customers with phone and fiber internet and the wireless internet. You know, we bid at a competitive bid process through E-rate. But we're currently a 2 gig DIA, and that 2 gig is what the county requested. So if the county said we want 5 gig, 10 gig, we can supply that, and we would bid that in the E-rate process. I mean, that's a competitive process. We could lose that bid if we're not competitive, you know. So that's up to us to try and win that business. And that BGP, I put that in there just so you understand that there are more internet providers to the county network than just us. It's a competitive thing. There's multiple providers providing multiple networks and diversity through the network. And then we provide the redundant route option for, you know, Coffee County. The backbone is built on what's called the ERPS ring, an ERPS ring, and it rings those fibers. So if an electric node, for example, at JSB fails, everything in Lebo and Waverly doesn't crash. It holds it's a kind of a active standby type situation. Now we do employ full-time residents here in Burlington, and then we try to use local contractors. You know, one example, we recently did a 75th celebration at our office last year, and every month we did a drawing and did giveaways. We did it both in our ILEC environment over in Madison, our regulated area, and we did it in Coffee County, 2 separate drawings, and we gave away gift cards to some of our customers that are businesses in Coffee County. You know, we could have said, oh, here's an Amazon gift card, here's a Walmart gift card, but we didn't want, you know, we try and buy our screws and staples and things from Eva down at Chrisman. You know, we get our tires at Rogers and Lewis, and, you know, that's how we operate. So anyway, just wanted to give the commission an update on our network, who we serve, how that works, how the lease came about, that collaborative environment. You know, like I said, it took 2 years to get to what it looked like, and plenty of meetings and trying to decide how to move forward. But if you've got any questions for me, I'd love to.
I got one. Is it possible to do a fiber to home network with the fiber you already have there?
Absolutely. So it's important to realize, I'm glad you mentioned that. So the county's leasing 4 fibers, right? 2 Gridley, 2 Leroy, and that gives you plenty of backhaul. So you've got a transmit and receive fiber active, and then a transmit and receive fiber standby. That gives you, and those are dark fibers. You have full access to those fibers. None of my traffic is on those fibers. But when we buried that fiber, I didn't bury a 4 fiber to Leroy. To give you an idea, coming out of our office there across from the hospital and going south, we placed 5 288 count fibers. So at the initial project of the $2.3 million that the county invested, that wound up being shy of, it was like 35% of the entire cost of the project. So that didn't fully fund the 2015 project, the dollars that the county invested. The county invested dollars to lease those fibers over a 20-year term. We built a much more robust network than that. So each community in the county has a cabinet that was set with the idea that those fibers come into that cabinet, they're in strategic locations, and have vacant ducts. So when we were boring through thoroughfares, the cost driver in any of these projects is labor. I mean, the fibers, cents on the foot, the conduit cents on the foot, but labor can be a driver. Whether you're sourcing that in-house and you're paying a living wage so your employees can go home and eat at night, or you're utilizing a contractor, either way, you're paying for labor. So when we dug most of those communities, we would place vacant ducts. So if we're going to bore this thoroughfare, let's go ahead and pull a vacant duct, and then we can pull fiber through there. So each one of those cabinets is designed to serve those communities. If the business case funding, whatever it looks like, comes about that says, hey, we want to do fiber to the home in a portion or a full community or even out into the rural, they were engineered and designed that way. Through that design process that the fiber board and MT Networks went through, was like, strategically we need to place these cabinets so that could happen. And some other infrastructures happened off of that network. We've had 4 new cell sites locate in Coffee County because they could get on that backhaul network. I know there was some talk about when there was a carrier looking to go into Woodson County, they could get fiber there, and as soon as it circled around, hey, we could get fiber over by Arnold's Greenhouse. There's another one, 2 actually, went in New Strawn last year, that those carriers were like, oh, we can get fiber here. Those aren't the county's fibers. Those are fibers that we placed in addition to the county fibers during that project that allowed that better communication for folks to have better cell coverage in the county to bring those. Because those cell towers, I mean, those carriers don't build fiber. They have to get all that data off the cellular network back to their fiber network somehow. And generally how they do that is they lease space from the provider, middle mile provider, to get it back to their network.
Answered my question.
I don't have any. I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I have some questions that I think need to be asked, and it would just shed a lot of light on conversation. This is to both QuickCom and MT. So the RFP I propose is not a fiber to the home project. But if it was a fiber to the home project, we have 8,000 people in Coffee County. If we were to get fiber to every home, I'm talking about to the farm, to every household, not talking about just hitting the cities and the high points, fiber to every home, we're talking 20 million, 30 million? More. Yeah, more. So true fiber to the home, that's been said by a few people, is not realistic. It's not cost feasible to Coffee County, just like it's not cost feasible to private corporations. Now, if there was grant money available, oh yeah, let's spend the grant money on that. That'd be great. In fact, that'd be fantastic. But like you mentioned, and you brought it up last week a little bit, but there is no grant money that pays for, right now, served areas. Part of meeting some of the ARPA requirements is that we would have to go out and do an independent study, like an independent, this is contrary to federal FTC mapping that says, if you look at the federal website, where everybody's covered in Coffee County, so we don't need better internet, but that's not true. You just have AT&T saying they serve one person in Waverly, and then all of a sudden the whole, Waverly shows served. this broadband project is the best, most economical way to get service to people other than fiber to the home. So we're talking 30 or more million to get fiber to everybody in Coffee County. I do think there is funding coming down the pipe that I think people are starting to realize fiber to the home is the way to go. It certainly is. Broadband, it may be obsolete in 10 years. There's always going to be something bigger and better, but fiber to the home is a good bet if you're going to make a huge investment. But we can't right now. We can't make fiber to the home investment unless something changes. Another thing that I think is a miscommunication, I think, is a little bit at the fault of the private business. So when you say you have service to an area and that service is available, Jesse started to bring it up. That doesn't mean it's not going to cost a consumer, a citizen, $15,000 to get that service, right? If you have fiber running down my road, but it's on the other side of the road, the paved road, we got to bore under that rascal, right? So I think sometimes when you say you serve an area or your service is available, that's not in line with what citizens are actually thinking. I think it.
Well, so I'll take exception to that. We don't do that.
Okay.
If we say a service, an area is serviced, when we build 100%.
On both sides.
So we wouldn't say, yes, we would go do those road boards as we're going through, and say we service both sides.
I think that's what he told Tom and I here last week.
Yes.
Right. So, no, our deal's transparency.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, and we're transparent too, so I would say that what he's talking about is a fiber to the home project, if they would build everywhere.
right.
The project that we're talking about was not a fiber to the home project.
Wasn't a fiber to home.
Right, it's two different things. So if the county came to us and said, hey, we'd love to build, or to Quitcom, whoever, or another provider that's out there that, you know, we've never heard of, and said, we want to build fiber to the home to all these places, yeah, you would. So we did that in Madison. That was a fiber to the home project. We built that 200 square miles. If there was a vacant home and we could get the homeowner to give us easement, yeah, they get a drop. Everybody's got a drop. I live on 9 miles of gravel road. The difference is, I have fiber on that 9 miles of gravel road to our ranch. The difference is that's our regulated territory that we receive USF dollars from the government to support. We have that COLR obligation. CenturyLink has that obligation here.
Unfortunately.
Right. Quitcom, Empty Networks, Joe Blow's internet provider does not have access to those dollars. So if you've got to build that 9 miles of gravel road to pick up that one sub, I've got folks in the Flint Hills that we're rocks on Flint Rock for 6 or 8 miles to serve one customer that wants to pay $65 a month for internet.
How's that feasible?
Right. So you got to make sure when you're talking about those things, you're talking apples and apples and not apples and some other fruit or a whole different basket.
Well, I think to be fair, you know, we're not talking about fiber to the farm. Even in this RFP that Bobby put out, you know, we're not talking about that right now. That's a long term down the road. I think that's what Bobby's saying. You know, that's down the road conversation. What we're talking about right now is 4 communities.
Yes.
So, you know, what's the best way to do that? And you know, you heard my stance on it last week. I hold firm to that. We have 2 RFPs. We have a wireless RFP and a fiber RFP. So.
Sound like we're gonna open today, and we'll be further educated on what that involves and entails, and
I just wanted to make sure, yeah, go ahead. I just wanted to make sure that there was possible to have fiber along the route that you all have now established throughout the county.
Mm-hmm.
If you happen to live. Now, just a ballpark figure, what's it cost a mile? I'm just throwing it out there.
Cost a mile. All right.
Shannon, you got an average cost per mile?
Our average cost per mile in Coffee County was somewhere between 25 and, when I look at numbers, I do Madison and Coffee County, it was somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000 a mile of fiber, just to get the backbone in the road, or in the ground. So.
And I think you guys went probably through the rockiest part of.
I will
Coffee
say that
County.
when we got into Coffee County and we left, you know where Richard Meyer lives?
Mm-hmm.
So we end, I mean, our regulated area is basically almost right up to his place. We plowed 2 miles in a day of black dirt coming, I'd never seen that in my life. I've been there 20 years, and I'd never seen a plow move like that. I mean, I'm used to, Madison is on a rock. You go west of Madison, you're in Flint Rock. I mean, the Native Americans traded that stuff clear to California because it was sharp and made really nice spear points. So, you know, we're used to digging in rock. So that figure, oh yeah, we did find some rock, no doubt. New Strong's got some rock, Waverly's got some rock, and we had to operate according to Coffee County Road and Bridge engineering design. So there's depths that we have to be at, and so there were some places where, you know, I would get a hold of Ryan Durst, who's the easement coordinator, and say, hey, you're asking for this depth, and I can get 4 inches almost to there, and I'd love to just plow it and not have to rock saw it, and he'd have to say, you know what, that's not our ordinance. Go ahead and increase your labor rate and rock saw it, because this is how the county operates our easement. There were some places where we said, man, it sure would be nice to operate on that side of the road, because I've got 3 other fiber carriers in this side of the road. And Wayne does a great job engineering his easement, and he's like, look, all the fiber goes over here. We're not putting fiber on both sides of the road. You're gonna have to work around all those other carriers. Well, that means I gotta find them, I gotta pothole them, make sure I don't hit them, I don't knock out other services, slows things down, takes more man hours. Those are all cost drivers.
And our project in Madison is also, anytime you accept government money, is also highly engineered. You have to have engineers on site. It's not like we can, like when we did Northwest Burlington, we could do it with our professional in-house experience. But when you do accept government type money from the RUS or USDA, you have to have professional engineering on site, and that drives up the cost.
Right, you have to have inspectors on site. All your design has to be stamped by PE. You have to be staked by engineers legally in order to use those funds. It has to be all redlined by engineers that are on site. You know, there's things that have to take, it costs more money.
Drives it up.
Right.
Well, anything else, Bobby?
No, sir. Thank you.
I think it's something that we'll, open the bids later this afternoon, more than likely, I would venture to say. We're towards the end of the day. Thank you guys for your presentation. We hope we, see what happens here. We're just building information. Hi, anybody want a break? Take it down.
Sure. Is Wayne still coming in?
Yeah, he said he's down in Wade's office and he'd be there whenever you're ready for him, so I can go let him know that you're taking a break.
Do a quick break.
I ran into Richard, he said he's willing to come in and give you an update on
Okay.
the tax bill.
Okay. Why don't we hit Richard right after the break, then we'll bring Wayne in. That works.
Excuse me.
Thanks, Bobby, for getting us on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Excuse my cough, and I was sawing dang trees all week.
All right.
Oh, yeah?
I'll ride back with her.
Yeah.
Thank you for eating that dust.
Okay.
I'll ride back.
That's
I'll
better.
Yeah.
I cut some firewood yesterday in my eyes, my nose, my throat.
Yeah.
all-
I got some old overgrown cedar trees that need to come off this new property we bought.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than cutting cedar trees.
Huh? The scourge of the prairie, the red cedar.
Nothing worse than cutting chrysanthemum.
Right.
As far as I'm
I can try and explain it in a little more layman terms than.
So I guess we'll try to knock on your door or something. Okay. I'm gonna request it anyway.
Okay.
All right. I'm assuming everybody else.
Yeah.
We're taking a quick break.
And you don't need.
Well, we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It won't be too long.
Yeah. Always there.
Haven't done yet?
Yeah.
Hey, sir, how we doing?
I guess, all right.
Nobody's told you any different?
You'll find out about how you do.
Doing well. Oh, good.
I don't know, the position you're in there, I don't know if you're good.
Thank you.
Trying to train somebody else. And it would have been.
Well, they've been working on Dow Jones lately, 600, almost 700 points today.
But he filed against me, so I say pick the Republican.
But you're not skating in here with this? I like that. Like that at all. Got beat. There's been a lot of development over the last few years.
Okay. Let's see, what's that chocolate going?
Not eating it fast enough.
That's my only addiction, chocolate.
I think mine's coffee.
I gave that one up too.
I plead the fifth. Well, the sun's not shining out there today, Angie.
It's not going to.
I know, I pulled the
It
blind up a little
better.
bit.
They talk
Give
like
us
it
some
may
light.
have a little break in it after dinner.
I ordered it at noon.
Then the high tomorrow is less than, lower than 30, so.
Yeah.
60 yesterday, and Thursday morning's supposed to be like 5.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
This week?
Yeah.
it does warm up after that.
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday, and Monday's back into the 50s.
Yeah.
Last week was bad enough.
Right. But last year, our winter came in February.
Yeah.
Here we go
And it
again.
was pretty miserable.
Yeah.
And I wanna order kids.
Hopefully we don't have that one.
Up, down is not good.
I told him, so I don't know.
Okay. He might have had to get some paperwork together
Yeah,
or
he might.
something.
Got your old grass cut all bought?
I'm sorry,
Got your grass cut all bought?
none.
People down in our area's got a long ways to go, and they're pretty salty right now.
Mm-hmm.
5 weight's over $2 bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That don't.
205, 210.
That's
My
not,
boys just sold some weaning calves.
that's not a good, that's not a
Good
good.
for ya.
Yeah, they were pretty happy with their paycheck.
I bet they were.
I bet they would. Well, they just had that, anniversary sale last week, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
over 2,500 head.
There was a bunch.
yeah.
There was a bunch. I see.
You know, last fall when I sold coming off of grass, I was pleased.
Yeah,
You can actually make money.
yeah,
Till you go buy it.
right.
And
Women
back.
cow calf, yeah, and unless you're raising your own mama cows.
Yeah, that's rough.
Morning, Richard.
Good morning,
Morning.
Richard.
How'd the tax sale go, man?
Done.
Done.
Cut them off. Well, when the checks clear, it will be done.
There you go.
I bet the statement he made that day, they'll clear it.
You never know.
I know you never know.
Somebody might get cold feet.
Uh-oh.
But anyway, we started with 56 as near as I can tell. That's the digits that show in my little file. And of those, 2 properties were taken out due to bankruptcy. So that means there were 54 left. We sold 11. So do the math, 43 were actually paid up. So they paid all their taxes and everything. So that's a plus. Finally over. Starting explanations to bid time, in case you guys want to show up for the next one, took 40 minutes. I hope we can get that cut down, because 20 minutes of that was explanation of propaganda.
Which is probably necessary.
You let
Yeah.
them.
Well,
A necessary
the
evil.
reason he had, it's still, you might call it necessary, but I think nobody signed that all of that was read to them. So I think something needs handed out, and you can just briefly go over and say, here's the highlights of the things you read. This, and you can cut down 20 minutes to 5. That's what I'd like to see next time.
There'll be a different set of buyers. There'll have to be some exclamation, but a handwritten deal would be a plus too.
I mean, and it has to be done every year, so, which leads me to the end of this. The next one hopefully will be planned for July or August of '24. So we can start doing this every couple of years and keep people's taxes semi-caught up. Because the taxes on here dated back to 2010, some of them did. I mean, ours, that wasn't a bulk. There was only a couple properties that were vacant and just had some sewer assessments. But that was still 2010 money that should have been paid up, caught up, whatever. Let's see. $41,000 was brought in. I told you 5 to 7.5. I like to underbid, but it was a lot more than I thought there'd be. I was really expecting 10 to 15. But in the end, even though that was 41, we don't get that because buyer's equity is a piece of that. We can't profit off of you not paying your taxes. So we get your taxes paid up in fees, and then you get the remainder. So of that 41,000, about 18,000 was excess funds, and so the bulk of that will get returned to 4 property owners. So the net effect is roughly 23,000 goes towards our fees and everything, which is still better than what I guessed.
What's the total cost of the whole project, although you may not know exactly
I don't
yet?
know yet, but 50-some properties at $350 a piece is a good guess.
That's 20 grand or short 20.
Really close. But what did we pay of that? Nothing.
Yeah.
It was all put on the property owners, and then in the end, the 11 buyers paid a little bit. But, and that's why we would go through this using these folk as opposed to somebody, you know, doing it in-house. I mean, how many hours did that used to take these guys down here? I believe I heard somebody was gonna quit if we did another one while she was working here.
So if you sell, just say I have back taxes, you're gonna sell one of my pieces of property, and the judgment on it's $10,000, and it brings $30,000. So the county does not assume that property before they sell it, so they have to give back the money over.
Right.
Overage back to the owner.
Yeah, our only interest in that would be the 10. And then you could look at it and say, well, you know, the government or, you know, somebody else has a lien, a mechanic's lien on it, whatever. All of those are satisfied, and then whatever's left is sent to you.
Sent back to the landowner.
So any liens are settled up. Could be you don't get any money back out of 20 extra. Chances are you'll see some though.
Right.
What else did I miss on here? So winning bids range from $110 up to $8,000. 9 people bought 11 properties. 33 pre-registered, 36 total registered, so 3 people on that day. 30 bidders actually showed up, so some of the properties that wanted to be bid on were already purchased, so those guys didn't show up. There were actually 15 to 20 people in the bidding process. I didn't catch how many exactly, but there were like I said, just under 20. About 50 people total witnessed said festivities. That counts looky lures from upstairs, checking out what's happening in the lobby. I believe I saw Angie's head poke out once.
It's been a lot of years since I've seen one, so.
Yeah, Sheriff Johnson acted as auctioneer and did a fine job.
I don't think it could have went any smoother, Richard. Everybody's cool stayed down.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of discussion behind the scenes, but you could always hear Tom.
Mm-hmm.
His voice carried, so everybody knew what that bid was.
Yeah. Next time, I'm hoping we can just have it in the conference room downstairs so that then people can sit a little more.
That would have made it a little bit more convenient, maybe.
Regularly, yeah.
The last one I attended was down here in the four-way, whatever you want, the doors, and people walking in and out, walking into a group of people, and they're like, so what thing's going on? Am I supposed to be here? Firing squad?
They get afraid. I mean, like I said, when you got 50 people scheduled between the stairway down, and, I mean, there were even some on the steps going downstairs, I think it would have worked better in the other room, but.
There wasn't a lot of traffic flow in and out, and a lot of us employees coming back to work, from lunch. The traffic flow wasn't huge outside the sale.
I think now that the room's available downstairs, it'd be a great place to have it.
So that's the nuts and bolts. What other questions? Any?
I think that's all we have.
Okay, and so whenever we figure out how much money, I'll let you guys know. In the end is what we wind up with towards the 45-ish thousand. There was taxes and assessments, and I'll have it broken down so you know exactly, okay, tax-wise, here's what there was. Assessments, how much did we get? And then I can tell you the total expense.
Right.
So yeah, Chris said there was a big spreadsheet that goes with fees, and so like your $30,000 property went for a lot more. Well, sorry, your 110 didn't even cover the fees, so yours gets to pay more of the overall fees.
Oh, okay.
So it's a higher percentage. So if we only brought in 40,000, you're paying 75%, I believe, of the fees that were left.
A lot of work goes into that.
It was a little bit. I wasn't even here the whole time. But we got it done.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Richard.
Wayne's just down the hall headed this way.
Wayne's headed this way.
Warmed up?
There you go. Morning, Wayne.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Got all your jackets there like it's cold outside.
One's pretty thin.
That's
One reflective. It is.
Can be seen.
It is reflective, yeah. So, get a few things here. The county road agreement that we have at that township up in Osage, I just handed it over to Wade, so he's working on it. He'll be working on it. So it's moving forward. Shouldn't be any problems there. Special issue check. Apologize, there's 2 pages, so one is basically kind of the cover sheet and the other is the motion sheet.
Okay.
So went ahead and hole punched those, but there should be like 10 copies total. I guess I don't know, do we give a different colored sheet for the motions?
One that's a gray one, we did, but.
Yeah, I didn't make those colored sheets, so.
After back to back.
And then, construction zone is here. Not too much change from last week, so.
We don't have a paper here today. I'm sorry, I just noticed Mark's not here today.
I don't know if we have anybody else here for me.
No.
Yeah, he couldn't be.
Oh, gotcha.
Front page, motion page, is that kind of what you guys got? Okay.
Whatever you want.
All right. Well, no road permits, as we don't do zoning anymore. Nothing to report at the landfill at this time. Then the next one would be the contract, and so that's part of, I was visiting with Wade to get his review as to form for the contract for BG Consultants. This would be for the design services for the bridges, 2 bridges over there on Homestead. That's between Second Road and Third Terrace, actually. And so those 2 bridges that we've talked about, 127, 128, is what this amounts to. The way they have their contract set up is, just to give you an idea, the price onto it, I'm still working with them on the price, but currently what they have is a lump sum fee of $70,953, but then they have also additional fees. That's the reason why I just couldn't put it all in there. And the additional fees would be, one is for geotechnical investigation. They have $15,400 plus or minus. DWR permit, $400, $200 per bridge. KDHE stormwater, $60. Plan room files, basically, it's $132. So there's an additional, approximately, $16,400 to what you're seeing in this contract to be. So you're looking at about $80, almost $90,000 for the design on both of those bridges. So that's kind of how that one goes. And so that's the motion there.
Bridges that you cannot design.
That is correct. Bridges I choose not to design. That is correct.
Choose not.
Yeah, I don't do those long structures, so
Okay.
without going through consultants to basically check the design work.
Motion 2022-06, based upon the recommendation of the county engineer, to approve the county attorney as a form, move to approve consultant-client agreement with BG Consultants, Inc. for engineering, designing services for bridge replacement for County Bridge number 127, 128 on Homestead Road from 2.5 to 3.25 road as per agreement, and direct the county engineer to sign all related contract documents.
I'll make the motion.
Tim moves.
So, I guess maybe I should be aware of these bridges, but for some reason it's not coming to me.
Well, a lot of people know one of those bridges.
I mean, we had this discussion before on these bridges, I believe.
Yes, we had.
Okay.
Yeah, because I went out.
I apologize.
I went out for professional services, request for proposal But one of those bridges is notorious. People know that they said, well, it was designed that way, and actually what you have is one side is somewhat sunk onto it, so when you go over the road, you kind of like, your wheels are going like that. You're probably aware of it. There's basically pre-stressed concrete T-beams, and so...
Okay, I remember now, sorry.
Yeah.
That's right down where the two creeks come together.
They're pretty close.
Yeah.
They're pretty close. And the beauty of this is by tying them together, one is on the engineering side of it, the other is the construction side of it, is I can still close it, but close both of them at the same time, replace both of them at the same time. And then, you know, you're going to reduce the mobilization costs associated with it by doing so. But you're still looking at two structures. It's probably going to cost you over $700,000. They're reinforced concrete haunch slab bridges. Those are bridges I don't do the design on. Simple span bridges, I've talked about that before.
Good. Sorry, I just had to refresh my memory.
No problem. All of our memory needs refreshing.
We don't do it all.
Exactly. All right, Tim moved,
I'll second.
Don second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
And the next one is for part-time. As you know, our zoning administrator that was in the highway department was also working half-time according to the organization chart. And so she was working half-time in the office, in the engineer's office. And then duties of zoning has kind of taken over more of her time, but now she's here. We don't have that extra help, and we're finding ourselves behind, and that's where we're at. It's not trying just to fill a position because I lost one. We truly need this position. And part-time is what we're looking at is probably about 1,000 hours. It'd be about half-time, what you consider to be half-time. And so we'd work it accordingly. And I believe you'll find that the office support associate, and Angie could probably tell me yea or nay, I think that's one of the lower classes that basically is available.
I'll have to look on there.
Yeah. Is that one of the lower classes?
It is, it's listed as a 20.
20? Okay. So it's not listed as the the higher cost accounting. It used to be cost accounting clerks, but it's not listed as that.
Angie, how do you handle benefit package on that? I don't know whether there's been any changes on that in a number of years or not. Anything over 1,000, you got the responsibility to offer benefit. If we can keep this under 1,000, but once you find out, get into the year, you need more than 1,000, what regulations are you walking into that could be an issue?
Well, then we have to pay for benefits and
You can have to go
keepers.
all the way back. So this is one of those, if we approve it, to me, and not to be unfair to the new employee, because you don't want to be unfair, try not to be, but we got our summer help at 1,000.
Up to 1,000.
To me, we got a responsibility to probably keep it under 1,000 to, you know, not get involved in a benefit issue down the road.
If that's the thing, I mean, one of the draws to bring folks in, and as we're listening, you just can't get folks to apply a lot.
I realize that's an issue.
And that is becoming a factor, not only this position, because I mean, obviously I haven't applied for it lately, but other positions we find it difficult to fill positions. Taking that away to say it's not there is going to also reduce your pool. But as I understand it too, it's half benefits if it's only 1,000 hours because it's proportional to the amount of hours.
It's not half.
Is that not correct?
It's zero.
If it's 1,000 hours, what I'm saying, if it's 1,000 hours or 1,001, it's...
Well, yeah, right, okay.
It's half.
But if they get 800 hours, they don't get, it's zero.
If it's 800, it's zero, yeah. That's the way I think. That's the way it is, policy-wise.
And we gotta be somewhat respectful for the employees, I understand that.
Yeah. There's other offices that have part-time. I don't know who all has, but there's several that do.
I don't either.
Right? Do we not have part-time
I'm
in
trying to think.
Register of Deeds does.
Register of Deeds?
She's full-time.
How'd she remember full-time?
She's over
Oh, that's right.
32 hours, she's
Yeah.
considered.
Oh, okay.
Same with attorney's office.
Oh, yeah, well, they used to, I guess. and
They
then
were part-time years ago, but
Okay.
they've moved.
Treasurer's office, they have any part-time or all full-time? Well, I'm just looking at a part-time right now to get us over that hump to be able to get the work out.
Motion 2022-07, based upon recommendation of the county engineer, move to approve the county engineer's request to advertise for and hire one part-time office support associate. No new position being held. This request will only fill vacant position due to transfer within the county. And I'd like to also put in there, 1,000 hours or less.
Not to exceed $1,000.
Not to exceed 1,000 hours. And the pay scale would be, what did you say that was?
What group is that, Andrew?
20. I guess we need to agree on a price.
If you don't mind, I mean, I'm gonna be coming in, and I will be offering at the CP2 for your approval when we get somebody. What we currently have been doing, and please jump in there, Angie, but what I've been trying to do, if they haven't had a lot of experience, they come in as an A. But if they've had a lot of experience, then basically, we have yet to, with the recent one, we would not go over what they would call the market value. Yes. And so that would be our max, is what we have done, unless they're just exceptional, that, you know, there's hands down for this person's wanting to do this. And then if that's the case, then I would come to you to basically argue my case. And so that's how I've been doing it. But if you hold me at something, then you're also going to restrict me from getting the better employee. But I've been doing it at the A. I'll go to market for somebody with a lot of experience, and I'll point that out if you had questions onto it. But going above the market, it definitely would be your consideration.
So that A is $14.92.
Yeah.
So scratch the per hour.
Not to exceed 1,000 hours.
Yeah, not
leave
to
that.
exceed 1,000 hours.
And then the position gives it the 20, I guess. Support
Yeah,
associate.
Yeah, 20.
So.
Motion's read. So move.
You move?
I'll move.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 3-4.
Okay, well, thank you. Other contract I'm working with, but I didn't agree with what they had submitted initially, and that was the cost for the cost share program on 75 highway, so I'm working with them on that. What we're finding is, for the consultants, at least this group, is somewhere around 10%, 10 to 15% is kind of what they're charging their fees at, so just a heads up. That's pretty much it. We did have a call out on Friday. Old Highway 50 and 27th Road had a stop sign down. Call out this morning. Well, it wasn't a call out this morning because of the state, but 22nd and 75 was another stop sign down. I did visit with Mr. Rohr here yesterday, and so met him out on site. And so what that is Oxen Lane. And over on Oxen Lane, I think it's 8th and 9th.
8th and 9th.
8th and 9th. That's a road, that section's been partially closed for over a year now. And so I have 3 options that I proposed, and I do expect him to come and visit with you. But one option would be where they set the new power pole on the north side. It's just on the east side of the existing road. So from the new power pole, approximately 70 feet, would be the new right-of-way and would be going through, a lot of those trees and buildings, if you've been down in that area, and then connect back to the road, after we got past the...
So you would be going all the way through?
Yeah. That would be option one. That would be the most expensive, for the county, because you're gonna have the clearing, and it would also be the most, for the area and for his, equipment that he has out there. It would be more work for him to move the equipment, whatever he would choose to do, on that one. That would be option one. Option two would be, create a, low-maintenance road from the, intersection, so a whole mile to intersection. And low-maintenance road, basically states, low-maintenance road, enter at your own risk. What it would do would take the liability for the embankment falling off at the river that's continuing to encroach into the roadway. It would take that away.
Are you still moving back 70 feet?
We wouldn't move anything back, we'd just keep the road as is.
Okay.
As is, but we would put some diamonds along that edge, but the road would still be open. It would be left at a low maintenance, enter at your own risk, statement. That would be on both ends. That would be option two. That would be minimum cost associated with that.
Do you ever blade them, low maintenance roads?
Yes.
You blade them once or twice a year, don't you?
That's about it, yes, sir. Most of the low maintenance road that you'll find, and that was that map that I previously visited with you about a couple months ago, is, what you'll find is more for farmers access. It's not for folks that have homes on the road. And his home is no longer a place where he stays at this point. Those mobile homes are not, I don't believe he's in them. And so it would meet that criteria. It allows the access to the farmers, all the way through, would be that option two. Option three would be that section where he owns both sides of the road, is he would petition to the county and close it. And then if he petitions the county and close it, you would have a hearing, you would have a meeting out there, and then you would turn over that road right away within that closed section to him, the landowner. Then the north part and the south part that would still be part of the fields the farmers are utilizing could be still open as a regular road, or it could be turned over as a low-maintenance road. Once again, you have just really ag traffic. The only thing is he does have a mailbox on that route. I asked him if he's really using it. He's not really using it, but if you do have mail carrier on a route, you cannot use a low-maintenance road.
He gets his mail at the house, when I talked to him a month ago.
So he would have to take the mailbox down, really, where it would be at.
No, if we just convert that over to a low maintenance road, it isn't gonna be very long, and that road will be in the river.
Yeah.
Because of saturation of up and down, saturation, it's just gonna gradually, would it be an option just to circle, make it an immediate circle around that one particular area? You know, maybe for 100 feet, you know, that's gonna get it away from the river there for a little ways, maybe 150 feet. Wouldn't cost much, provide him total access to his property, and I don't think he's down there very much, but I'm not gonna speak for him.
Mm-hmm.
But that wouldn't cost us much either, and provide a little bit more length of time for the road to stay in place.
Something like that.
And you wouldn't have to get into the buildings too much either, because the building's a little bit further south.
If we did anything that was not basically a designed road, it would be a low-maintenance road. You can make it as a low-maintenance road, you can make those slight bends and stuff like that, but because the speeds are not, believe it or not, people kind of roll their eyes, but your gravel roads are designed for 55 miles an hour, statutorily. They're not posted that way, but they are. And so if you design anything less than that, you're gonna have to have signs and everything else associated with it to
If we go
minimize
with
that.
number one and spend more money, it's gonna last longer, fully understand that.
Yes.
But it'll also open you up for a lot more traffic that isn't really necessary to travel that road, when they could go a half mile east and go around.
Exactly.
So, are you gonna try to check back with him in a week or two, or you want me to check with him? And I know all five of us gotta make a decision.
I did make that suggestion that he'd visit with you, but I also made a stronger suggestion that he'd come and visit with the commission. Because I think he's wanting to see what his options are, if there's any money perhaps for the taking of the additional road or right-of-way. But if you ever have a chance, you needed to really take a look at it. I mean, there's buildings and trees and a lot of implement, out there. So there's a lot of things that would have to be moved. A lot. And so.
I know they're wanting to open up that 1 mile of drainage, a mile east of there. And he owns the south quarter of that, south 80.
Mm-hmm.
And then the south end of that quarter mile, that ditch comes through his 80. So he's kinda wanting to know what our position is here, so he can release them to do that. Cause he'd prefer not to do that if he don't get anything here. And I've always had a good relationship with Joe and his brother, so, unfortunately his brother's not here, but would it be any issue of having him come in next week? No. I think the quicker we get it resolved, this part, is quicker it's gonna open up some opportunities to clean that ditch out. And one of the township board members is gonna do that work. So, cause it would open up, during those rains we had there in the fall, there was about 70 to 100 acres that didn't get harvested. Cause the water just get in there, corn stalks got into that mile long, and grass is 10 feet in the air. That's probably not exaggerating much. It does need to open up, and they're willing to open it up, but he'd like to have a little give and take, and I can understand where he's, and to me, we got a responsibility. They've owned that ground for years and years. To me, they got a little bit of responsibility, or we do, to provide a little better access to what's there now. Cause the gates are close enough together, you can't drive a car through it. Drive a motorcycle or four-wheeler, that's about it.
Well,
And one of them's even fell over.
When it's closed, they shouldn't be going through it at all.
Yeah. So, to me, we got a little responsibility, landowners paying taxes, 400 or 500 acres there, so. If you don't mind, I'll touch base with Joe. Cause I got his phone number, and ask him to come in. I'll get back with you, Angie, on a time.
Okay.
It'd be good if we could
We've got-
probably get his time set early. That way
We've got
we'd be
some other
setting there
early
30 minutes.
appointments.
Sorry?
We have some early appointments already scheduled next week.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, we've got BG coming in, right?
Yeah, they called and they wanted to come in next week.
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. I didn't know who. So they're coming in right at 9. They only needed 15 minutes, and then Christina from HR Partners is coming, which I can push her back if you want me to.
It's one of those deals with a local person, I'd rather they didn't sit there 30 minutes waiting to get to them. And I don't like to show priorities either, but, cause it probably might take 10 minutes already, he's already aware of it, so.
Mm-hmm.
So you wanna put him at 9:20, and then I'll.
Okay, let me, if fair be, and I'll visit with him, and if he's not available, I'll get right back with you.
Okay.
I'll call him when I have to pick up.
Okay. All I have at this point.
All you have?
Yes.
You're working on the, the budget.
Yes, sir.
Budget deal?
Yeah, I'm still working on that. Our survey, over here is, I visited with Fred, and, Fred had visited with Vance. Vance had since moved that, material back to his building, so, we're good there. I think everybody, had an opportunity to talk about it and discuss the issues, and so that was all taken care of. And so we had that.
Yeah, the new orange curbs are moved back, so it looks great.
Yeah, so I provided the material to Fred, visit with them a little bit, so I thought, have a third party go and visit with him, so we did that. And then the report, and then also too is keep in mind that, document that we have for low maintenance roads, such as that. So, but that's all I got really. I mean, if BG's coming in to sell their services, I would sure like to have you have an opportunity to visit all of them. At the end of the day, you got Cook Flat, and you have also Schwab Eaton.
3.
Yeah, and then there's potentially also Call Valley too. So they're going to start swarming in. It's given. They're going to see that opportunity. But,
might be better off just set all of them up one particular day, 30-minute break.
I think that would probably be.
That way you're fair to all of them.
Honestly, I think that would be a better way of accomplishing it. And, the discussions we had last week, I thought was good, very good, in approaching how you're wanting to go forward. I would say too, that, you're talking about like the 3-year, 2-year, make it a 1 year. Make it a 1-year contract. I mean, if you're going to do the consultant, You can make it a 1 year, just like you do Whitney, I believe. Is Whitney not a 1 year contract?
Yeah.
So you have kind of the same type of thing. You have professional services that are coming in, and you can look at them annually. That gives you some options, and then also gives you that, instead of tying up your contract time to basically a roll-in 2, you have it at a 1, and then it gives you basically options to evaluate or go a different direction if you want to go a different direction. But
This may be a little different than what Whitney's is, you know, you're talking about bridges, you're talking about other things that may lap into the next year, maybe even the third year. I'm not too sure you had not to work with at least a 2-year with a renewal, another year in it after the first year.
Well, your design aspect of it, what you're gonna be looking at is a consultant that comes in and talks to you about basically the opportunities of the project that might be out there. Do you want me to, you know, they'll say, do you want me to go ahead and apply for this grant? Or this funding that, you know, KDOT has or something like that. And so they're gonna give you advice through that year. But then anything that you have, like on these bridges and such as that, then that's a different set of selection of the consultants. You can choose them, or basically you would have to put it out for bid. And it's not necessarily bid. What you'd be doing is going out for qualified base selection. Because any type of federal funds, just like what we had, other than these, any type of federal funds would have to go to qualified base selection. And so you'd have that. But either way, Don, I just, you know, the thing is you're gonna have contracts, however you wanna set up your contract, but if you get this consultant engineering firm, most of the time, they just come in and they're your call for road and bridge to say, hey, we got a structure, we got a culvert we're wanting to put in, what do you think about the size of it and different things like that, and then they're basically able to visit with that engineer, because they can't make decisions in putting some of those structures in, especially if they're wanting to resize them or such as that. Little small projects is a lot of the things, but the big projects, I think it's gonna go out for more of a selection process, and I've always tried to rotate around with the 3 that we have, and that's Cook Flat, Schwab, Eaton, and DG. But majority of it's always been, I would do it in-house. Very little of it went out.
I wonder if this is in the same ballpark that Wade has got some real strong feelings on, having 8 or 10 very specific questions to ask these 3 companies.
It would probably be.
I'm not saying what we need to do, but I like that process, and Andrew could maybe visit with HR, since you're aware of it, and maybe they supply us 8 or 10 questions.
That way you have the same people, the same questions.
I think it is good to have some consistency in it.
And do you want it, since BG Consultants is already planning on coming next week, see if Cook Flat Strobel can come next week, or?
I don't know how quick they get it put together.
Yeah, I don't know how quick, like I say, how quick they can get it put together, and you can get all 3 of them here at one time.
30 minutes, just every 30, maybe 40 minutes or whatever.
I think you could. I can get you the numbers. I mean, ultimately what you're asking for is county engineering services to support Coffee County. I mean, that's ultimately what you're looking at. And so what is that? Well, let them define it. You know, what can you provide for us? Let them define that. You know, how would you basically set up your fee schedule? Let them define that. You know, those would be the questions.
So don't
that you
have
ask.
bullet point questions?
I would have the question is basically, how would you basically perform the county engineering function for Coffee County? What would be your intention? How many, and these would be questions that you can ask. How many counties do you support right now as county engineer for these counties? What's the type of things that you actually do for these counties? Let them answer that.
You could probably design the questions.
I can help with some of the questions, but I think those are the things that you ultimately need to consider, because that's what you're doing, is you're saying that. Then you come back to the fees, say, okay, how do you structure your fee? You know, and then from that, you can say, okay, well, this guy's just way too much. You know, you can definitely throw that out there. But then the other one is, how do you basically, when we do have these grants that come in, you know, the question is, when grants are being offered by KDOT, how do you work with the county to basically move to the next step, and that would be the design process of these, which would be too large for the county to do. Is to say, okay, how would you do those?
Well, now,
Well,
oh, sorry.
well, we need to take these into executive sessions, keep them private.
Well, and I was gonna say, now I've already spoken to all of these firms, and they've already told me that they don't generally deal with contracts. If I go to them and say, hey, you know, kind of, what do you look for in a contract, they're gonna say, well, I've already talked to you and said we don't generally deal with contracts, so do you want them to just come in and discuss what they do have to offer without,
Any
because they've already told
contracts.
me that they don't do contracts. So to go to them and say, well, what do you want in a contract? They're gonna say, well, didn't we just discuss it last week that we don't do contracts?
Well, but
Like,
see, there I disagree with them because they're saying something different. Because actually, you already have 2, engineer as needed contracts already for the county. Okay, you remember signing a engineer as needed, it was about, $600 or something like that. And it was engineer as needed, it was BG, what they were doing some drafting work. Okay, so I had them doing some drafting work, I was behind. Then you have also Cook, Platt, and Strobel, engineer as needed, it's a contract. You also have that one as part of that community. Yeah.
is that for that specific purpose? So that contract was for that community project purpose, not for,
No, because underneath it says basically now a contract for engineering services, and then these are some of the items that if you do, it's gonna have an additional fee. But it still basically gives you that engineer as needed contract. And the contract could be no more than just a letter, a simple letter just stating that we would, do these services for you at X amount. Otherwise, if you don't have anything, then basically, they can send you a bill, and you don't have anything in place. What would the,
Right.
you know,
I
what
was
do you
just,
say
I'd
or
be
not
thinking
say?
about the dollars per hour numbers is what a person would want written in stone, I would think.
Which they do, they can provide you basically what their fee schedule is, and which they have. I have the fee schedule from those contracts, and I can send that to Platt and Strobel one to you. I have the fee schedule for that one, and I also have the fee schedule for BG on those engineer as needed. So we have that. I don't have one for Schwab Eaton.
Basically, engineer for needed is, in lawyer terms, would be a retainer, right? Or
Pretty much, yeah, that would be a good way of saying it. Yeah. Engineer as needed,
You kinda
so.
take precedent if you call and need it, you know, 'cause that's part of the, you know, timely manner of getting
think
to Coffee County if we need them.
But see, the thing is, when you do the engineers needed, you gotta ask for them. Unless they come to you and say, hey, we got this going on, are you interested in moving forward onto it? If it is, we can do it based on our engineer as needed contract, and this would be our fee associated with it. They would kinda come to you.
I think it was Schwab Eaton was the only one who told me that they work with retainers more on like a water department type thing, but not generally with the county.
I'll get you that, I think there might be talking 2 different things, but I'll get you what I have onto it. But, and I can get you some questions if you'd like. I think that would be good, because you're wanting somebody to, know what's going on in the state and take advantage of some of the grants and fundings that might be available, and bring that back to you. Then you're wanting somebody that, Road and Bridge can call and say, hey, we got this is our question, how should we handle this? Because there's things that they can do, there's a lot of things that they can do without an engineer, but then there's things that if they do it, they have to have an engineer that does the review on it. And so, you still have that too. Because you've probably seen that when you went to the training and such, they have like a yellow card that says, this is what a road and bridge can do, and then this is what the engineer can do. You have that. One of the things that wasn't talked about on the road and bridge side is you also have landfill, and that's going to be part of my report. You have an annual report for the landfill, and I contacted Blackstone, which is the consultant that we've been using, and I think it's just a couple $100 to do that report every year, and so that's an additional fee that you would have, or some type of an agreement with them. That would be outside of like Cook, Platt, and all the rest of them, because they're not environmental.
Right.
They're more civil. So,
Right.
but Andrew, if you'd like me to get you those, I'd be glad to get you those and give you some suggestions on some questions, and it's totally up to you guys to which questions you want to ask. But
Well, it'd be good to treat them all fair, you know, and if you don't have anything wrote down, you're not gonna remember to ask a question, you know, or leave some part of it out or something.
Yep.
You know, so.
Give everyone an opportunity to answer the question.
The fair same questions.
And then whoever you feel good with. I just hate to see one company come in and basically, you know, get their foot in there and be the first one and the only one that you don't get to see what the other ones can offer. That would be the biggest thing, because you have, there's offices in Emporia, like Call Valley has an office, but it's a phone. BG does have, Bruce does have himself and maybe one or two others that's in that office. But most of this stuff is shipped out. I mean, even the bridges, those two bridges that we're looking at for BG, they're shipped to Manhattan. That's just fine, it's just basically how it works. Cook Flat would ship their bridges, if you did bridges, they ship them to Topeka. Now, of course, they have other offices. Schwab Eaton is Manhattan, so that's how you have those. But if you go Call Valley, it depends on which engineer, but I think it's like Ellsworth. But,
Not to shift gears, if Joe can be here at 9:20 next week, can you be here?
yes, sir, I'll make myself here.
Someone will be in touch with you.
Okay. It was a good conversation I had with Joe, and I think he's just wanting to know what, you know, if there's anything that, if we're gonna put a road in, is he gonna be reimbursed for it other than, and I didn't go into any prices, I thought it would be something
I
you guys
won't go
needed.
into any discussion, you've already talked to him, so.
But he does need to come here and be here at a certain time. Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, that shuts our agenda down. Other than roundtable, we got the bids. Thank you.
Thanks for telling.
I wonder if Wade has anything for roundtable.
Can't beat this weather. Yeah.
Yeah, probably like to have him and Brad when we do this. I don't know if we go into executive session or we do this in the open.
When you go to different counties.
Open and public.
The only time I've been involved in it, it wasn't open session. I've only been involved in it once.
You want Wade just for roundtable?
Yeah, if he's got something.
We got one of those roads too. Yeah, that's true.
Do you have anything?
I do not.
You do not.
I do not.
I know Tom does. You don't have that?
Pass by him quick.
Just,
We wanna, yeah, is
I didn't know if that
Carl?
was warranted a discussion or not, so,
Well, I think it is.
okay. I mean, that discussion should be not public.
Warren White.
Yeah, no.
Warren.
No.
Good morning.
Is Carl leaving?
You want me to call him?
I think
Is that right here?
Yeah, that'd be great.
What's that going in?
Pardon?
Job performance?
We'll finish roundtable and then we can go to that.
Yeah. I just wondered what it'd go in as.
We can open those. Well, I don't care.
You got anything for roundtable?
No, I do not.
Do you have anything for roundtable, sir? Or come back around to you?
I need a 15-minute executive session,
Okay.
attorney-client. Probably need to do it with Angie here, but.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see.
But attorney-client, potential county litigation,
We'll hit
myself
you.
and the board.
We'll hit you, cause we got Carl coming up too.
Okay.
Probably for an executive session.
Okay.
Carl's coming right up.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you come here and review this real quick? I don't know if you've seen this. The only thing I have is this deal for these ladies that was for you.
Yeah, that's a very worthwhile project, and I guess where I'm at is, I mean, it ain't been touched in 12 years.
What's the big deal? Yeah, why
Give them
not?
12 years worth.
How do
Why not
we,
give- Yeah,
maybe $1,500 a year, 10 years worth, 15,000.
Yeah, that's what I was,
How do we get them in front of the board too?
how do we get who in front of the board? These gals?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they already come here.
Well, there was an issue getting in front of the other board.
Oh, the public health?
Yeah. She's been asking for it.
There's an issue of getting who in front of what board?
These ladies in front of the public health board to ask for grant money
Yeah.
for this adventure. And they never would get
No,
anything.
Wouldn't allow that to happen.
Yes.
Right.
So I don't know why, I mean, they come to us.
Yeah.
If they're in charge of the money, they're not doing what they're supposed to be. I mean, not saying they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, but the ladies come to us because it wasn't the avenue that they was bird dogged out, so they come directly to us, so.
Who's technically been in control of those funds for the last 15
There's
years?
a committee of,
And this is the
sheriff
committee?
and
Yes.
Lindsay and.
This is the committee we're referring to.
Right, there's a handful of people.
That hasn't taken the steps or the initiative to,
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
the
but-
best what we know.
I mean, there's always two sides to every story, of
That's
course.
the reason I try to
Of course. but-
clarify that a little bit.
I mean, I'd move to get $15,000 out of the, let me get the glasses on.
Special alcohol and drug program fund.
Yeah, special alcohol and drug fund, yes.
Yeah.
That balance there, is that the same balance that's in our?
Yes.
It's 18,000.
Okay, it is say it.
I would be along with Tom at,
I mean, if it ain't been touched in 10 years,
right.
and I don't know, in my opinion, a very noble and worthwhile project.
And I know, Melissa. I don't know
They
her.
seem compassionate about what they're wanting to accomplish, so.
Seems very competitive.
Um,
And it is groundbreaking deal, but everything breaks through groundbreaking.
Yeah.
I like the sound of it.
I move, we give them $15,000 to the,
Empower House.
Empire House Ministries.
I'd second that.
Funds to come from special alcohol and drug.
Yeah.
Special
Correct.
alcohol program fund.
Yes.
Yep.
Gail Taylor's group,
Yes.
Yes.
the daughter works with her on some of that.
So, Tim moved.
You moved, he
I moved,
seconded.
he seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. So if you wanna call her and let her know.
I can get the voucher in and get it paid. You want it into this month?
Yeah.
Might as well.
We
You
can
got
get it in
time.
today, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll help them get the kickstart going
Yep.
on that.
So,
One second.
You're fine. When I come up at your guys' show, so I gotta be patient with everything.
Well, I had Wade review, and so I wanted to make sure that Counselor as well.
I didn't hear the first part, I was saying if I was.
No,
Oh,
move to executive section to, with the board, Carl, and, what would be the discussion topic?
so it looks like to me, it would, it would be, for attorney-client to discuss ongoing county COVID response. I think that's or the COVID response and county policy regarding that response, and trying to think of a way to word it.
Because my thing about this is when I watched it on the video the next day, it was just like, this is not how we work. I mean, there's a way in which we do the process, making sure that the resources get to the right spots. There's a process in which I work through to make my decisions. And I didn't feel like I got fairly represented last week in the commission meeting. And that's why I made the points that I did. So if that helps you anyway.
I mean, does this warrant an executive session, or just pull it and?
Well, I mean, I think depending on where it goes, but if it's dealing with what was said in an open session, depending on where that goes, I think it needs to be done in an open session. If it's regarding
if we have to head that way, I'm okay with the way.
Some sort of legal issue, which was my thought to begin with, but if it's in reference to what was said last week in an open session, then I think that has to be discussed here until I don't know where that line might be, if it may reach that line, but.
So
I'm fine with that.
I'll strike my,
Can we clean it up in open session?
My concern is just like what I stated down at the bottom. I don't want this to be negatively seen.
Right.
I didn't want it to look like I'm running somebody down in the ground or running a department down in the ground. And I just wanted to discuss with you from my standpoint.
I think what was, let's touch with what's in stock.
Okay? That's fine.
What the county has in stock as far as,
That's our current inventory as of when we pulled that off of the computer. And that's all stored out at the landfill in the emergency management building.
So as of, what, Friday?
Yeah.
So as of Friday, mass 3-ply, we have 1,650. That's 3 big boxes. And I guess that's another set of mass, is that correct?
Yeah, it could be.
That's 500.
Those would be the procedural masks.
Procedural masks, okay.
And then we go down the line, those are the duckbill masks to Kimberly-Clark. And then we also have another style of N95.
And you got 1,320 of those?
Yes, we have 100 of the duckbill, the ones up underneath the PFRN N95. And we have a Marshall box in the 1860 of the N95s. And then we have the another Kimberly-Clark. What that is, that's the amount of PPE we have there in stock, but also in reference to the gloves that was made, if you go back to the back page on page 3, if you go down to the bottom of that list, if you go to the nitrile gloves, we have 1,000 of them, and there's 10 cartons of 100 gloves, 100 piece.
And is there more on order?
No, this is what was allocated to us during the COVID response.
Oh, okay, so this is just surplus from the original.
So that's what we have out there from the original.
Roughly how long have they been here?
I would say 1.5 years.
Is there a shelf life on them?
I'd have to check to see what the date of manufacture is.
Because
it's the approximate date of manufacturing from that date, and something like the gloves, you just you take them out and check them to see if they're still good.
Elasticity, whatever you want to call it. So we have plenty of supplies.
We have some there, yes. Now, like say with the girls, they said they all wore the same one, it was small, so that's why I highlighted that we do have some out there, but nobody had checked with us.
Right.
There's no request made for gloves or PPE.
You highlighted one of the small.
Yeah.
So the inventory is shared?
We just have it down there, but nobody made the request, would be my point. Nobody come down and talk to us. or me or my staff. Like with the message boards, it's not unprecedented. When they said they talked about how we used it during the drive-through clinics, I didn't allow OK Kids to use the message boards this year or our generator because they're Homeland Security assets.
Oh, okay.
So this is not an unprecedented thing. And nobody come to my office to talk to me and request that resource either, and that's the point of it. Because it was portrayed like, you know, I was gonna shut it down no matter what, which is untrue. Nobody come down and requested it.
Right. Okay. Well, as long as we got plenty of, protective gear,
Right.
you know, I think there's, that's out there.
Right.
And available to whomever needs it, I guess, inside the county.
Right. And then about the state of the disaster emergency, there was reference that that's what they was operating off of, and there's no, you know, that was off the executive order that expired.
I didn't think there was an executive.
Well, no, there's 2 executive orders at the time of the meeting, and there was a state of disaster at that time.
Okay.
But we don't operate off the state of the disaster.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Very well.
And then, like I said, it was kind of an operational meeting, how they was gonna do that. That wasn't shared nor talked over with us down in emergency management, so we could have facilitated anything that could have needed.
Gotcha. We all gotta work together.
I understand
What's
that.
it take to make that happen?
Huh?
What's it take to make that?
Have to ask Lindsay that.
Communication.
Yeah, because we have our list of priority items of things that we're doing down there, and if they don't come down and share those ideas or what they wanted to do, then I don't know.
Yeah, it's all based on communication.
Right.
If we don't
What's
communicate.
it take to make it happen?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And that wasn't shared with us. I mean, she come down and asked my opinion about something, and I give her my opinion, but it wasn't a request, or she never asked for help. So when that
Or
occurs,
if it would work in with you.
right,
To get a bigger grab, a hold of something.
an achievement,
Achievement, yes.
yeah. That was the whole point of it. I just want to make this correction since we wasn't allowed, we wasn't invited to the party session.
Wasn't invited to the party. All right, thank you, sir.
You're
Just
welcome.
wanted to make sure we was covering our tracks.
You bet. Anytime.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everyone.
I have an antenna. How can you tell if one's an 800 megawatt or 500?
That's above me.
If
If Scott Farmer was here, I'd go down and grab Scott Farmer. He could tell you.
Okay.
I'm still learning about radios.
I'll just bring it to the sheriff's office. They can send it to whoever they need to go to.
Right, because I'm still on the bottom of that learning curve.
Okay.
I'm getting up it, and we're having a radio meeting this Wednesday to discuss different options and different things we want to do with the whole group. Any of you are more than welcome to sit in.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Wade. Oh, yeah, we'll go to Wade.
So as I mentioned earlier, I need to request a 15-minute executive session. Myself and the board, under the attorney-client exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, the subject matter being potential county litigation, and I think I said 15 minutes.
15 minutes gonna be enough?
Okay.
Okay.
That's a good starting point. I hope so.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Don moves.
I'll second.
Go ahead. I'll second.
No, you just have somebody next to you.
I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. We will go in at 11:31.
Yeah, we just changed.
Yep, I was counting on that.
I'm still stretching,
Oh, me too.
trying to get it in gear.
Being a lumberjack, not any fun anymore.
And if I might have to know, let her know that she needs to come in at the end of the month to pick up, or we can pay. Okay. Whatever. Okay, let me know. Okay.
Do you have an IRS log on? Mm-hmm. Do you know what it is? Yes. What do you need it for? Hang on a minute. 1099. Oh, okay. I don't have an address for this, but. Huh? I said I don't have an address for this. No, one, okay, so I have minutes before I will go ahead and print off the vouchers. And then I'll do it and then I'll get an address. About 10 p.m. Yeah. Yeah.
told Vegas, Dad, to come over, I'll make it.
Full council.
Yes.
Well, maybe we'll do that Wednesday.
Sorry?
Move the chair.
Whew. Mr. Wade, you got anything else
Was that
for us
yours?
today?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all I have for today.
You gonna be available Wednesday?
Wednesday morning?
Wednesday morning? Okay, yeah, we'll be in here for checks and vouchers. If something should arise, so
Yep.
have you
Just,
around?
Right across the hall.
Have we had any update on the jail prisoners outsourced, whatever, so on and so forth?
There's 4, 5, maybe 6. We're still using Wabunsee County, Lyon County, and Elk County. They've been working real hard to get people's cases resolved and out of jail if we can. But, I mean, that's a day-to-day thing because some people make contact with law enforcement and they come to jail. And, you know, depends on what it is. I'd like to think, and maybe others would disagree, that we're not just holding people in jail that don't need to be held in jail. Everybody who's in jail has a bond, has the ability to bond out if they meet certain conditions. Some of them are low bonds, some of them are high bonds. And if they're high bonds, then without me going into things I shouldn't, you can look on the county jail, I think on the website, they have it notified who's in jail and what their the crime they're alleged to have committed, and you make an informed decision on your own based on what information you see there. But I can't talk about it because I don't want to impact things later on down the road should someone end up being a potential juror in a case later on down the road. So, I mean, I do think that at some point in time soon, if you haven't talked to Larry Goldberg needs to come in and talk about what's happening and what the current plan is moving forward. If he has one, I think he's been working on some of those things. And if you look at the county to the north, they have a number of public forums and meetings set up over, I think they're ongoing now, and started at the end of last month, or no, this month, going into next month, and they're doing them, it looks like, if I remember right, every other day all across Osage County.
It's pretty aggressive.
They're having a lot of meetings up there, because their vote's February the 8th, so.
I did speak with Larry last week, and he did state that we probably better do it sooner than later from the cost of things going up, and he had some new information that he was gonna be needing to present to us. And I do think did they send somebody down last Friday for the heating and air?
They did, they came through, saw everything looked good. He said he was just checking on one thing, that there was nothing wrong with it, he just wanted to make sure it was matching the code that it should, but otherwise.
So that's all been pretty much given the thumbs up, done and okay, so.
I think it'd be good to have Larry on.
So I will tell you, a number of people have approached me, and they are still concerned about the number of beds that are recommended. They're concerned about the cost, whether it be in this, here in the parking lot, using the parking lot as at least the current rendition shows. And I think those are some issues that will need to be addressed. I think having people, the citizens, wrap their head around that number of beds, the necessity of spending that amount of money, I think that's something that you just need to be prepared to be able to talk about and have, the ability to communicate in a way where people understand your position on that and why. You know, the 78 bed, that's been an issue from the beginning. We started out with that public meeting, or that special meeting, and location, financing, size, those were the sort of the hot button issues that I still think exist today. And Larry Goldberg will be able to handle some of that, but in each of the four corners of the county which you represent, I mean, that discussion will be ongoing, and you know, Larry's not as accessible as each one of you, and I just run into people either at the grocery store and a parking lot or wherever it may be, and they stop me and say, do you really think that that's what's needed? What's wrong with what you have right now? I think people realize that there's an issue with our current jail. Do they understand the magnitude? I don't know that they do. But most importantly, size seems to be the big issue right now. So 78 beds, 50 beds, whatever it may be, I think Larry or someone needs to be prepared to explain and demonstrate why that's a necessity present time. And then the other big issue, and maybe the elephant in the room, is the cost. Having somebody wrap their head around, and the amount that was brought up to me is $25 million. Why do we need a $25 million jail? And then I also saw there were questions and concerns in the paper last week from a Board of Education meeting that you were there on another matter, and that got brought up because you're a commissioner, so there were questions that were asked related to the jail and proximity to elementary school and those kind of things. So
You can't win for losing.
No, nobody wants it in their backyard evidently.
Nobody wants it in their backyard, and it hasn't been a problem this close to the elementary school for however many years it's been here, so.
Ever since I can remember.
Yeah. So, no matter what, you're not gonna please everybody.
So I don't know.
That was the first time I'd heard anything about this new location for the most part. A lot of what I got back was, you know, adding on the existing jail makes more sense, but.
Sure.
But again, they did bring up, that's all they brought up was location, and I tried to come across, or tried to explain the safety of the design of this new structure. I think that's a lot, you know, even I didn't get it at first, but, you know, when Sheriff Rogers was starting the promotion of the jail, that these actual cells are welded together metal cells. I mean, it's not like they can kick a hole in bricks and step out into the world here. I mean, it's high tech.
Which the proposed new facility, is that what you're? Or, yeah, I mean, I'm sure in some places, and you watch the movies, and this is probably based on something that's happened somewhere. Someone takes their car and rams it into the side of the jail trying to get somebody out, and I'd be very surprised if under the new building that would be something that could be done. I could be surprised, but if you've looked at the pod system, they're self-contained and they're built, and pods are stacked on top of each other, and that's how they do it. They're designed for, I mean, if you think about it, those pods and those cells wouldn't only be used here, they're used all across America in some major metropolitan areas where you know, you have some of the most violent people in that particular location, and I think it has to be done that way, so you're getting the same thing that would be placed somewhere else. Is everything fail-safe? I can't answer that. I mean, things happen, but I would hope that if Coffee County decided to go ahead and build a new jail, that at the time those doors opened, it would be one of the most state-of-the-art facilities not only in this region, but all across the country. But ultimately,
Well, sorry, it was brought up at that meeting also that, you know, getting a prisoner into the jail, they're actually visible to the public the way it's designed now. The new design, correct me if I'm wrong, is you don't see anybody.
No. My understanding is there's a
Sally port you pull in.
sally port you pull in.
Door comes down.
Correct.
Prisoner gets transported or walked into whatever.
They go into a
process.
booking area.
Yeah, and that's what I explained that Monday night at the school board meeting, was that this is a lot more safe.
And we had one in the old jail until it got over.
Used for storage.
Yeah.
Used for storage, I think.
Yeah, and
We've outgrown it.
some of the people who I've talked to said, have you been in and done a tour of our current jail? No. I will reiterate, go take a tour of the jail. If you haven't been in it,
Give it a look.
it might
Give
be,
it a look.
it might be eye-opening, maybe not, but, you know, either something happens or it doesn't. If it doesn't, then we move on with what we have, and at some point in time, you'll hit that point where hindsight's 20/20.
We'll be transporting them every place.
Well, you'll be transporting and you'll be dealing with other potential issues later on down the road. This is an opportunity to be proactive instead of reactive. Sometimes you have to be reactive, and it's not because you didn't try to be proactive, but I mean, that's a choice for the general population to make. I don't think, I mean, if they talk to Eric Smith, I mean, I guess the people who have been here for many years and have experienced the gradual change and shift over time. Eric Smith grew up here. Tom has been here. Tom Johnson has been here for 30 years or 26 years, whatever it is. They're two people who you can talk to and talk about what's the difference between now and what you see versus 30 years ago. And I think Eric Smith would do a very good job articulating the difference. He's not going to blow smoke. Everybody may not disagree with him, but anybody who watches this or who has questions, and the sheriff and undersheriff are two very well-informed individuals, and they're involved in law enforcement, but they give a different perspective, a unique perspective that others don't have because they're involved in it. They see they see the shift that's occurred, and I've only been here for a short period of time, and I'm told by the people who are in my office what the difference is. You know, one of my staff members has been here for 35 years. Sit down, talk to her. I'm sure she'll be more than happy to tell you what the difference is from when she started to now. It's been discussed with me before she became a judge. Judge Brashears, same thing. So, and part of the reason why there's a third staff member in the county attorney's office is because of some of that change. So, any other?
It's all gonna take time. I mean, we were supposed to start setting up meetings throughout the county, you know, and then it kinda just laid down, so I don't know. We need to.
I just assumed we were getting more ducks in a row about the design of what's happening
Well,
over here.
that's.
So that way we had a better presentation, and correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you just need to get Larry involved. Once you get Larry involved, I know he's at the public meetings in Osage County, and he can explain. I mean, if you remember our special meeting, there were a number of questions asked that, you know, I'm not the expert in that area. I just know the facts that were presented to me, and he's one who can explain at least the reasoning behind X, Y, and Z. I can't do that. I mean, he's built and designed, I think he said in his 4 years, over 300 jails across the country. And so I think he should know a little bit about what he's talking about, if not a lot. I just can't do that. So you need somebody who can provide facts and answer those tough questions, which I can't do. I don't think any one of you can do. The only thing you can provide is how is it going to be paid for, and why are you going to pick this location, and somebody else has to talk about why you need this many beds, why that makes sense or doesn't make sense. And I think you can go from 78 down, or you can do nothing at all. I mean, do nothing at all, I'm fine with that. That makes it, I know where the people are, what's happening. I know the system that we're operating under, but I think at some point in time, the county will have to react. So
I say do it now, but I thought that's where we were at. I thought Larry was finishing a few things up, and then,
Did they test drill last week?
yeah, we were waiting on that too, I thought.
Did they get that done?
I don't know.
They called canceled last week when it was so cold, but I don't know.
They were supposed to have been in Thursday the other week, this past Thursday again, and I hadn't heard that they canceled.
If I'm not
This
mistaken,
is the
they're doing
second
it today.
time.
If you're not mistaken, they're doing it today?
Of today. Mhm.
Well, that's more information that they're compiling then probably, I guess.
And again, that's what I assumed, but, you know, what happens when you assume something.
Oh, heavens, yes, I did.
if at any point in time you start public forums, you have a committee put together, work with Larry to have him part of that, because I think you're gonna have a lot of questions that can't be answered, and then sometimes that's how misinformation gets spread.
Well, I think we were gonna have him last time too, but something came about, he had an
Emergency.
emergency in the family and it could not be there, so.
Hey, Larry lost his mother last time, so unfortunately he couldn't come, but he needs to be a part of it.
I think
Even though he's an outsider, some people may wonder why you bring in an outsider, but you gotta bring somebody that's got a positive attitude, knows exactly what the answers are to the questions, and as long as we're there backing him up, and we've already heard the program, hopefully our citizens will realize that it is an important project that needs to be completed, or needs to be moved ahead on.
Yep.
So he needs to be sitting in the hot seat and subject to the scrutiny, because he's the one that can identify what those issues are and respond to them. And I mean, I think it's fair. It is a huge amount of money to spend on a project, and he needs to be sort of put through the motions to answer those questions. So I don't know if it needs to be positive. I encourage, if somebody does have a negative outlook on it, come in, ask them the questions, and let them respond. And people can agree to disagree on whether they agree with what he's saying, whether they don't, or if they had some counter information that would show that what he's saying is inaccurate or not. But you know, that's the only way we're going to make it, you know. It's okay to have opposing viewpoints. In fact, it's highly encouraged. That's how we get stuff done. If we all were a bunch of lemmings and went and ran after the first lemming that ran towards the cliff, then we'd all be jumping off the cliff. And I don't think anybody here wants to be a lemming. So getting that other opinion and the reasons why it doesn't make sense is vitally important, in my opinion.
More of those opinions you can respond to a bit in a positive way, it'll just be a better atmosphere. And the main thing is, our citizens as well as us, everybody's got to be great listeners. And a lot of people shut people out too quick and don't listen.
Listen to respond, not listen to learn.
That's all I got.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Wade.
Well, I guess we will open the bids. Sealed bids?
Yes, sir.
Proposals?
Other bids?
Other bids? Proposals? This is from QuickCom. Give me just one little bit here, because I believe they stated they did have two. They do have two, so I wanna make sure. Wireless internet, okay. This would be wireless internet
For the county.
network for the county. I don't know what I need to read, what I don't need to read. But install a multi-gigabyte licensed backhaul feed wireless internet network capable of delivering speeds of 100 or 1,000/1000 Mbps, but will not deliver to subscribers based on the following packages and prices with DIA. A wholesale package is available. I guess to the customers, 25 Mbps, 5 MBS, $55 a month, 50 and 10 is 65, 250 and 50 is 85, 500, 100 is 105. I'm assuming those are up and down?
Yes.
Upload, download, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. QuickCom proposes to complete this project within 6 months, 6-month time period of the date bid is awarded. The total cost of this project will be $484,961.32.
Just for the commissioners, part of the RFP was that they had to deliver an average of 100, no less, 100 over 25, 100 over 20.
100 over 20.
And they are, from what I understand, from what you just read, they are not meeting that.
It looks to me like it's 25, 50, 250, and 500.
Yes, sir. So.
So only two of them are out? Is that correct? The 25 and the 50? I mean, which, so you're saying that
That's to use the ARPA money, they have to provide a minimum, speed. And, so if they're not obligating, to provide that minimum speed, then they're not meeting the requisites of the RFP.
well, it says symmetrical speeds of 1,000 to 1,000 Mbps.
Want Brad to read it?
Let me take.
He's probably gonna know more about the jargon than I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna try and compare the two so they're apples and apples. Description. Let's see. There. Looks like they're saying they could provide the speed.
But, yes, so they're saying they can provide in this. They're saying they can meet the requisite.
What do you have? I guess I didn't see you get something.
He just handed it to
I just
me.
handed, I handed it back.
That's all right.
I'm sorry.
I should quit digging through my-
Okay. Okay. So I did not, actually was not part of the RFP, so I'm reading through it too.
Make sure that the bids match the RFP.
Bids match the RFP.
And so, Bobby, you said they were providing what was that,
On the level of speed, yes.
Okay.
One of the other tests where they were supposed to demonstrate their actual coverage area proposed to be covered. So, just because somebody says they can meet the pricing, they also have to serve X number of percentage of population, which is huge. That's the whole point of doing this project, is that we're getting, right now, if we're at 30% coverage countywide, this project's supposed to put us somewhere between 80 and 90%. So that's almost tripling our current coverage for high-speed internet.
Okay. And so, as far as that goes, that is not listed as part of the coverage.
In their response.
In their response. I will agree with that. What I saw of, we'll have to open the other one to see what it is. To compare, let's open the other one.
Open the other one. So this is quick comm as well. It was just on top of each other.
Go.
And I'm sure this is the wire to.
Yeah.
This is 10 gigabyte compatible fiber across point outside every premise within the city limits of Gridley, Lebo, Leroy, Waverly. This fiber would be compatible of delivering speeds of 10,000 over 10,000 Mbps. And that's 1,719,775. So
that is the fiber to the home.
Fiber to the home, so.
And as far as I know, that doesn't qualify for the ARPA money.
I just wanted to keep those in the same.
The first one does.
The
first one does.
First one does.
Okay.
Our goal is, the towns are pretty well covered with internet access. The problems we're having is the people in the rural areas. Getting adequate internet speed to be able to have a video conference with the schools and things like that. Several of you are in rural areas, and it's a problem. So.
Okay, we're gonna go to the next one.
So this last one would not qualify for ARPA money.
Put that back in that envelope there, please. And this
Just because it doesn't qualify, that gives us a signal we're not gonna even look at it.
Well, I would, you can look at, and you can pay for anything you want. Yeah. But
We're getting
we're trying to.
Game, Brad, I
understand it.
don't know how to understand all the numbers.
That would not
Other
cover.
than the dollar amount.
We're trying to cover 90% of the county with a faster internet is the goal with the wireless.
Brad, your guesstimate on how many of the cities are covered with internet now, as far as the population? 50%?
What is the population in the county? In the city,
8,000 something?
8,300.
8,900, and so half of them live in city limits, so 50%, so we're looking to cover the other 50% of the county.
I'd say you're in city limit, it might be 60 or 70%.
Okay.
That's just a guess.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know.
I don't know.
That's my guess too.
This is MT Networks. Must've been in fine print somewhere.
For a price.
Alright, sorry about that. Alright. Okay. Says, says MT Networks proposes to recover from Coffee County, the leaser, of $550,000 for the actual cost inquired from installing all Intel infrastructure to begin servicing these communities. And there's a lot of pages.
What's your procedure to move ahead on this, Angie? Because, to me, some unknowns, misunderstanding, or not understanding.
Okay.
We need to have Brad and Bobby take this bids and break them down, bring back to us next week.
Yes, they can do that.
That can be done?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not saying what Jesse wants to do, but.
No, that's fine with me.
I mean, you read them aloud,
That's
so
real
the
more
public knows
acceptable.
what they are, and then they can go and do the breakdown and make sure everything meets the
I was
guidelines.
hoping they could leave.
And then you can award it
Quick call.
next week or whatever.
All right, so I was reading through the proposal, and one thing was provide a fiber backhaul to the fixed wireless bases. So, you got the wireless on top of a tower somewhere. Below that tower, there needs to be fiber. That is an important part of the backhaul.
Yes.
And from what I saw of the proposals, I think Quickcom said theirs was a wireless. They were going from tower to tower, so it doesn't go to fiber.
Brad, can we talk about that? The reason why that's a big sticking point, not only is it a requirement from the ARPA, use of the ARPA money, a federal requirement, but it's for latency issue, which is like interruptions in your service. It needs to be constant, but because the actual fiber goes to the tower and then to a dish, it's being shot, high-speed internet's being shot from each dish, as opposed to if it jumps from dish to dish to dish to dish, there's a diminishing value on that signal. And as it gets to wherever it ends up, it's going to be less than where it started as far as strength of signal. And then also, if one tower goes down, your whole network's down, as opposed to with a fiber backhaul to the tower, then you're covered. Even if Waverly goes down, Levo doesn't lose, or Gridley doesn't lose service.
But if it's all wireless, one tower can shut the whole county down.
Yes, sir.
Wherever the fiber backhaul would more than likely, eventually it's gonna hit a fiber backhaul somewhere.
We'll have to.
But how many tires it has to go through to get to that fiber backhaul
Yeah.
is the issue.
Right.
Yeah.
So and if one tire goes down, even in Anderson County, that might be fiber there, I mean, if
Yeah.
you lost it, I mean, your whole system's down. So if I'm reading correctly, MT Networks is, not MT Networks, sorry, Quickcom is even in that is out of the proposal, is out of the bid because it's not a fiber backhaul as required by the RFP.
Not, yeah, it's not mentioned on there. I don't know if it's mentioned in MTs either, so.
Well, we know
We
there's.
just let Brad do some
Yeah.
discovery then, and
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. I'll come back Wednesday.
Will be
and
in.
I guess he can just suggest only that, Bobby be a part of it too, cause he's on the Southeast Kansas Planning Board, and they're in charge of our ARPA funds, so you know what is allowed, what is not allowed, to make sure we're getting bang for our buck, so to speak.
It'd be good for Brad to head it up, because it'd be less contentious with Brad. When you have competing companies, they get kind of ornery, but I think Brad would do a good job running interference from my side.
Thanks.
Well, and also.
Gonna be rough.
Yeah.
Well, what do I want to say? A different party looking into it, or looking at it, what do I want to say? Non-biased opinion.
Yes.
Maybe? Is that the right terminology?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. I'll take a look at it.
If you can, report to us Wednesday.
All right.
If you can't, we'll
See
schedule
you,
it for
see
next
you Monday, yeah. Okay.
Because of the importance of it, I suggest take plenty of time and,
Review it,
which I
yes.
know you will.
Yeah. Okay. I will look into it. Anything else?
We just want somebody looking into it that was.
They understand what they're reading.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to, you know, there's some, yeah. I will figure it out.
I digest that jargon.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
guys.
This number don't mean too much to me.
Yeah. Up, down, in, out.
Yeah. Well, my understanding was previously, we couldn't just award it to MT Networks, we had to go out for 3 bid proposals. We got 3 bid proposals. We got 2 from QuickCom, we got 1 from MT, so that classifies as 3 bid proposals.
Phone guidelines at least.
So, once we receive that, then we can continue on with whichever direction we want to go.
It sounded like to me though that base, I forget the terminology they used, it sounded like there was fiber to that tower where MT set up to broadcast wireless, as to where QuickCom is bouncing from tower to tower. But that base attachment is far superior to the other, just way on.
Yeah, because you can have all
way
the
on
information,
understanding it.
you can have all the information in the world coming in, but if you can't ship it out, it's just, it's a roadblock. It's traffic jam.
So it just fills it up and it's done.
Yep, it just overloads it, system goes down, done. But the fiber optic is like a high-speed train, you know, from coast to coast in a matter of seconds, just like flipping on a light switch.
So QuickCom's got dish to dish to dish.
Way Brad was understanding it.
That's the way I understood it too.
But eventually, it's gonna have to go into a fiber optic backhaul terminal somewhere, is probably wherever they have it, so. And they said they was working up north of Iowa, it very well could be over in the Garnett area. You know what's in between here and Garnett?
Trees.
A lot of stuff.
A lot of roads. Took them a long time to build that 7 miles of highway over there.
Wait and see what Bradley says.
Anything else
Thousands of
coming up
tons of
on
rock
the
they moved.
No, I did get a hold of Melissa with
Okay.
Empowered
Okay.
House Ministries to let her know that that had been approved for the 15,000. So she said she wishes you could all see her smile and how much she appreciates it. And then I do have an address for you.
Okay, yeah, I'll need that.
Seemed like a very sincere lady. So
Yes.
She was very, that helped her a
Very
lot.
dear, hold their heart very dear to what they believe, you know, in what they're doing, yes, very, very much so. I guess we've got a few things to sign, and then you got anything else pop up?
Nope, those are your checks and vouchers Wednesday, and any other county business that you'll have coming.
We'll get our hands to going here.
I'm gonna write out vice chairman on this one here.
Oh, okay. Sorry, road and bridges.
It is.
I can send these around at separate times, can I?
Yeah. I'll let them know to change their form.
Yeah. You know, I always sign my name, which you can't read. Long
I know, right there.
Yeah.
If you're gonna make that correct, why don't we have to get that the way it needs to be, where you live?
I do have internet, maybe
And I can hold
dial-up.
all the checks here in one file, can I?
Yeah, the check,
Okay.
yeah, because you're the one that signs those.
Right, so I just didn't wanna get
Mhm.
it split up, but I wanted to get them to start signing.
You did that, so.
Tim Waverly does play at 4 and 5:30.
4 and 5?
4 and 5:30. Girls at 4 o'clock.
Sign down here.
That is Monday.
Yeah, where it
Well,
says
it's just,
chairman, I think.
tax abatement.
Yeah.
I sign here as well.
Oh, no, they don't, I keep saying
She did say.
There should be more than one.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
make the open
From
that.
4 to 7.
Yes, there.
I kept it to remind me.
And then that's it.
Holman just now getting their bill
I'm sorry?
in. Holman just now getting their bill in.
Oh, I don't know what that was from.
That's appreciation down.
So that's Wayne, appreciate.
2.5 months old. Looks like it's been watered up.
There's the text.
Okay.
And then it's one on the check. Oh, crap.
No, Tim, I'm mistaken on that. Waverly don't play until tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night? Alright.
They're 4 and 5:30 tomorrow night.
Yes.
That might work out.
Oh, no,
I'm
Mr.
off Wednesday.
Cause they're in the upper bracket, so.
Alright.
Keep me in line, Tom, keep me in line.
No,
Somebody's gotta keep the whole.
Yeah, no doubt.
I got
That's what
back to me,
Andrea,
it's just your
Andrea and
turn.
Angie's for.
That was the, where, the end of summer. Those are just reports. You need to sign anything else? Yeah. Thank you.
That's your new toothbrush, huh?
It was left in that desk, and for some reason, I transferred it over to this desk. So I was busy doing, cleaning out my desk and wasn't paying attention earlier.
Yes. If everybody's done, we'll recess until Wednesday at 9 o'clock.
Works for me.
Sounds good.
12:33.
Yes, ma'am.